It's the 13th day of September, 2015, and this is the Radical Agnostic, where ideology goes to die. Radical agnosticism is also can also be described as open-minded skepticism. In other words, skepticism alone results in cynicism and incredulity. Open-mindedness alone results in over-credulity. Open-mindedness and skepticism together, that, in my opinion, is the ideal. Preach! Episode something, 27. And my name is John. I'm your host. We got Mark Beef on mic number 2. Hello. The crack of that beer was his greeting. We have Bryan Richter, the stowaway guest, mic number 4.
Hola.
And our returning guest, registered nurse, all-around badass, backpacker extraordinaire, and other things too. Jeff Hums, he's back.
I like tater tots.
Oh, that'll do. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff, people. 9/11 anniversary and some shenanigans on the internet related to that I want to get into. I might get a little heated. I'm going to talk, of course, about my mom's impressions of the show, which she shared with me the other day on the phone.
I can share mine, too. They're my mom's.
Your mom's?
Yeah.
It's just all bad stuff about me.
Well, kind of, yeah. But yeah.
I love you, Mr.
Now
Richter.
that you mention.
Yeah.
I'm going to win you over someday.
If she actually would listen to the whole thing, I think you would have already won her over, but she gets so mad. I'm working on her.
She should listen to the one with Varble, maybe.
I'm working on her.
All right.
I'm going to make her listen to one with me. And we're going to debate.
Politics, we're going to talk about Trump and Bernie and all that jazz. Immigration and the debate about sanctuary cities, deportation and stuff of that nature. Homo naledi. No, it's not a new trend among teenagers. It's a new form of hominin, or an ancient ancestor of Homo sapiens, us. Recently discovered in Africa in pristine condition. So a whole new species of human ancestors.
A new limb on the family tree.
Yes.
Bigfoot.
They look a bit Bigfooty if you look at the representation of them. They are a little Bigfooty.
Yeah, sort of. Football season has begun.
It's good stuff.
You
football
happy?
Season.
Are you, Jeff? Do you watch? Do you care about football?
I do.
You do.
America.
Who's your thing? Who's your guys? Color.
He's a Bears fan.
Bears and Colts, and Notre Dame.
Mark, you don't care about football.
Manchester United.
Yeah.
See, I got this thing
That's
about
the footy.
I got this thing about football season. Like I love football. I love watching it. I dig the game, but it does something strange to the American male. Like everybody's a fucking crazy tough guy on Sunday, starting fights in bars, like angry at you can't fucking talk to them if their team doesn't do well.
Yeah.
I just call that douchebag.
Well, yeah, and that's
It's that
like,
theme song.
it fucking
They had
cracks.
the Indigo Girls do it instead of Hank Williams Jr. People might settle down.
Well, what cracks me up is
Tom Brady's a cheater.
you get this drunk guy like we fucking won.
Yeah,
Your ass was stuck on a fucking bar stool. You didn't do anything, bro. When J.J. Watt cashes his check, you don't get a fucking dime.
Yeah.
If they lose, it doesn't affect your life. If they win, it doesn't affect your life unless you're in too deep to your bookie and you can't afford to fucking pay the vig. Then it doesn't affect you. So
Well, it's
why
the same
how
when
the fuck do
whoever
you get
wins
so
the
wound up
presidency.
about it?
Same way whenever somebody wins the presidency,
It's like us.
Democrats or Republicans, yeah, it's like, yeah, we won, wow! And it's like, no, you won?
Yeah, they
What'd
do.
you win?
They say
No.
we a lot.
You still have to go to work on Monday and you're still
you
going to
didn't
take
do
a third.
anything. So that's just my message to football fans. Like, enjoy the games, but when it's over, remember that you didn't do a fucking thing besides pull up a chair and cheer, and it doesn't make a fucking difference.
Just don't forget to tip your waitresses and bartenders at the end of the game.
I can tell you that.
I don't know how life works, Brian.
Is
The team can feel that energy coming
Yeah.
through the screen.
Well, I was just
like
gonna-
when you ask
especially,
someone to pray for you on Facebook.
Right.
Perhaps we should introduce
Unintentional
karma
prayer
again.
avalanche?
I know how John feels about
Yeah.
that.
Especially in Seattle, where the stadium artificially amplifies the sound of the crowd. because their fans weren't enthusiastic enough. You guys know that?
Really, they artificially?
Yeah, Seahawks. Yeah.
Well, is that as bad as like the shit the Patriots do? Like it's
no,
always
the Patriots are actually cheating.
Yeah, that's
all the time,
They're
dude.
cheating at the game. You should hear Bill Burr, the comedian. I listened to his podcast, Patriots Fan. And he's hilarious about it, obviously, but he's just shitting on all the people who are calling Tom Brady a cheater and stuff and how they're hypocrites. And I just wanted to talk to him like, you don't mind that he cheated? Like, I get that it really had no effect on anything, I'm sure. A couple pounds per square inch out of the ball or whatever. It doesn't matter. No. But it's cheating.
I mean, it makes it easier to hold the ball.
Right. It's what I've heard. It's a preference. Quarterbacks have a preference. They have different size hands, you know.
Right.
So some guys want it completely inflated, other guys want it a little smaller. You know,
that's what she said.
Right. I mean, it's a small thing, but he cheated. I mean, he destroyed his cell phone. You're not supposed to cheat. You know, suspend the guy for a game or two.
The judge had him on his fantasy team, dude. That can't.
I know.
We can't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you're ruling on this, and you drafted the guy on
Yeah.
your fantasy team.
Yeah.
Damn, bro.
I know.
That's.
Worse than Pete Rose.
Yeah, well, that's Pete Rose is. I'll tell you why Pete Rose is out. Not because he cheated. Like he would have been back in a long time ago if he wasn't so abrasive.
Is that what it was?
He's abrasive, dude. You ever hear him talk? He's a dick. He's like kind of a modern day Ty Cobb. I think he's just Pete Rose is kind of a jerk.
Okay.
And American public can't handle that.
Yeah.
As evidenced by Trump.
Right. No one would ever support a blustering narcissist.
No, but see the guys who this fucking guy had me laughing yesterday. The show hadn't even started yet, and I was already laughing. But I don't even remember what I'm going to say, man. Mark, you're fucking funny.
You got trumped.
I got trumped.
Boo.
Yeah, Paula and I saw the new M. Night Shyamalan movie yesterday, The Visit. I liked it, man. I like his movies.
McGuire brought the axe right away, too. She's like, quack, quack, he
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah. Okay, so a lot of times when people disagree with me about things, or if they're good at something that I'm not, I will develop a theory to explain that in a way favorable to me. So I started like
Hello, Axis 2.
Yeah, because Chris McGuire, our guest last week, I was talking about this movie and I liked it, and I think Paula liked it too. Maybe not as much as me, but and I was talking about it on Facebook, and Chris McGuire, chimed in and said, "Oh, most of his movies suck. I hope it's good, and maybe I'll go see it." And she was saying, because the M. Night Shyamalan movies, they all have a twist at the end where it totally changes, like The Sixth Sense. It turns out the guy is dead.
Yeah,
Bruce Willis. And that I love the little twist. It's enjoyable for me. It like redoes the movie for me at the end when I'm usually getting bored of a movie.
Right.
Spoiler alert.
There's a twist. Oh, Sixth Sense.
Yeah. Any of you that haven't seen Sixth Sense.
Right.
Well, maybe you haven't seen Sixth Sense. We're real sorry.
Yeah. He's a ghost. A ghost. Not alive. Ghost.
He isn't.
He makes pottery.
So she was saying, I always guess, I always know the end. I always know the twist. And we were talking about another one of his movies, The Village. And I was like, really? You knew that it was in because it seems like it's in Pilgrim times, like
right.
1600s.
It's
and then
in a state park or something like that.
Right, and then spoiler alert, turn this off. You find out it's in the modern day. And it's just this community of professors that's trying to live in an old-fashioned way.
Ways, right.
Yeah. So
the Amish already have that nailed down, and they have butter.
So they're good to go.
Good to go. Knock it off.
So I was like, oh, you knew that it was in the modern day? I was like, how did you know? Like by the way they talked or something? Because there's some clues in there.
Right.
And she was like, no. She's just like, it was just obvious. So Chris, like,
it wasn't super.
Was there
obvious.
a jet con trail in a corner?
Are you sure? Are you sure you knew that was it, or when the twist came, were you just like disappointed with it, and then sort of reacted to that by saying, "Well, that's obvious. Of course, it's that." Because I never guess the things in his movies. Like I try to a little bit, but then I don't want to ruin it for myself, so I actually just relax and watch it.
Right.
So my theory here to explain how other people are so much smarter than me and get the end before I do is that they don't.
They're bullshitting.
And they're not. And they just don't. They're actually uncomfortable with the twist, and then there's something they don't like about it, or they're anticipating it so much, and then it doesn't live up to their expectations, so they have this negative view, and they say, "Oh, it's obvious." What do you guys think? you see this with horror movies, right? So some people just don't like horror movies, and I get that. It's just not for them. Other people, though, they really hate them, and they always say how stupid they are. So, like, movies that I've personally found pretty creepy, especially when I was younger, a lot of people are like, it's so dumb, it's just so stupid, like, they're angry at it. And I have a theory that they're, like, really scared by it, and they don't like that. They don't like the feeling of being frightened, which is understandable, but they react to it in, like, this really negative way.
But you really think people get scared by horror movies?
Yeah.
My mom won't watch them, dude. The Exorcist, like, literally scared her. She
I'd
didn't
say
sleep.
Like 20% of the population.
How many
gets,
people
like,
did
really
we watch?
scared.
Literally, we watched the dude pivoted on his hand and fucking sprinted out of Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
You remember that kid?
People were screaming.
Sprinted.
Yeah.
That whole row of tough guys behind us was fucking empty at the end of the... I heard the dude say, he's like, I can't do it, man.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm out. Like,
Mark.
he fucking bailed.
Mark, especially like religious people, who really believe in stuff like demons and possession.
Yeah,
they'll watch that
Scare
and
the fuck out of them, dude. Like,
scare
my
the
mom
hell-
won't watch.
yeah.
She won't watch that shit. She's out
You
of the
don't
room.
know a lot of, like, it's usually girls, but there's a lot of guys like it too.
Do you remember the
I, mean,
old...
I know people who don't like them because of the gore or stuff like that, but I don't know anyone that is actually frightened by,
Dude, my
by
mom,
the movie.
My
and-
mom has sat in the bathroom when we were traveling, like across country or something. If me and my dad and my brother were watching a horror movie at the hotel, my mom has sat in the fucking bathroom and read to not see the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's adamant about it. She's one of those people. Like,
Right.
she
I
won't.
just don't know those people.
No.
Yeah.
Your friends are too jaded by
I guess, yeah, probably.
life. Grizzled. They're
And
grizzled.
me myself, I mean, it's a movie. Like, I know it's a, unless I'm watching it on the internet and I'm like, is this real? Is this
Right.
like,
Yeah.
where it's like, supposedly ISIS beheadings or whatever.
Yeah, there's a question as
That's
to
the only time when I'm like, I'm not
Well,
frightened,
I mean,
but I'm
Mark,
upset.
it's on the
I mean,
internet. Of course, it's
Yeah.
legit. It's legit. If you
No,
saw it
of
on the
course.
internet,
no,
it's legit.
No, what I'm saying is,
Especially if it
there's
was a
a
meme.
possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you
with
saw
that.
it in a meme.
If I go to the theater and I'm paying $10 to see it, I know for a fucking fact nobody died in it.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not a
now
snuff
that's
film.
not true about the new Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah.
Well, but
Yep.
we'll see if that even
Yep.
comes out now.
And there's some other
It'll come out.
stunt woman paralyzed from or fucked up, broke her neck, did something fucked up.
Yeah.
I forget which movie that is though.
And the M. Night Shyamalan, ding dong stuff. I just
You
Yeah.
don't get into it.
I watched Sixth Sense, and I really didn't want to because I just saw the trailer and I fucking hated it because that little kid whispered through the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't.
It's not my favorite
I'm not
of his
digging it.
movies.
I don't dig little kids in movies. Is that bad? Like,
No,
if you have a kid in the movie, it almost fucking ruins
once
it for
in a
me.
while they do it right. Like, I think the little girl in Signs, both of the little kids in that movie were really cool, and the ones in this movie they're more like young teenagers, but they're not. It's not
Well,
bad at all.
there's
They
little
do them
kids.
in a
Well,
realistic
Jurassic
way.
Park, the kids didn't bother me. Dakota Fanning in Man on Fire.
Yeah,
There's little kids in movies, yeah, that I don't mind. I
Yeah.
just, I
But
just
for the
don't
most part,
that
like
kid.
the one with the
I like that
Indiana
kid's
Jones movie
face.
where they put the kid in it, it's not cool, man.
No.
You should have left that fucking kid out.
Isn't
No,
he-
most-
Isn't he related to the Osmonds or something?
Who?
no, that kid wasn't. That was the kid in Sixth Sense.
Yeah, wasn't he related
Yeah.
to the Osmonds?
Yeah, he's an
Man, I should
Osmond.
take that back though, because then there's other
I don't-
movies
I don't
like
like
The
the
Goonies
Osmonds.
that are just fucked. Like The Goonies is awesome.
Right.
How can you not? That's what I felt like we were when we all went backpacking together. We were like big ass tall Goonies.
All right, so I'm just gonna let that sit. My theory as to why people claim to figure things out that I
Well,
don't.
it works for you, so you roll it out there and leave it, man.
So what was it? A couple days ago was the 14th anniversary of September 11th.
What were you doing?
I was. It was early in the morning. I was in college in Pennsylvania. Once a week in college you have to go to chapel. It's like church basically.
Right.
And so I was getting up. It was like 7 a.m. probably, right? So I was in the cafeteria and the big screen was on, and it showed the first one burning because no one saw it happen live. The
Right.
first one. So I saw the first one burning. So I finished my breakfast, went into chapel, and at the end of chapel, they did an announcement to the whole school, the whole college, and they were like, "The Pentagon has been hit by a plane or a bomb," and they didn't mention like the second tower, or maybe they did. I don't know. And that's when I was thinking like, the Pentagon. I was like, this is fucking real. Like, something horrible is happening. Like, this is a coordinated thing.
Well, and you weren't wrong.
Yeah.
wasn't that military academy?
No, this was my
Messiah
college.
Christian College,
Yeah.
right?
I went to Christian college, too.
Messiah
Catholic
Christian
high school.
College.
Yes, sir.
Boy, that's no pressure on a kid to go to Messiah College.
It was great. I loved it, actually. But yeah, so that's where I was. What about you guys?
We were supposed to go to New York the next day
Crazy.
and to watch the Felix Trinidad Bernard Hopkins fight, and it was going to be on the 15th. And my friend called me, my friend's girlfriend, and said, "You turn on the TV. Like, I don't think we're going to go to New York." And the second plane had just hit, so they were replaying it over and over and over. So I turned on the TV, and I had one of those old ones where it kind of faded in. And so as it's fading in, I watched that second plane come and hit the tower.
Oh.
And I was half asleep, and I remember, like, my first thought was, fuck, those guys were committed. Like, whoever was flying that fucking plane was committed to slamming it into that building, because he did it at about 1,000 fucking miles an hour.
Yeah.
And when she told me, she said, and I'm like, why? What's up? She said, they're flying kamikaze planes into the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
And I'm still half asleep, and I said, the Japanese are attacking us? Like, that was actually what I said on the phone. And then she's like, just turn on the TV. She hangs up. So then I remember, like, I was kind of slack-jawed. I was like, what the fuck is even going on? And then they showed the first jumpers.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, you can't, like, you have to stop filming that. Like,
Yeah.
you can't show that.
I
You
can't watch
cannot
that.
show
Yeah,
that.
you can't watch
Like,
that.
and they didn't anymore after the first, like, you saw a few jump, and I'm like, man, imagine how bad it is up there to know that you're going to jump fucking 1,000 feet to your death. Like, it's
You can move your cell phone.
yeah, that's-
So if anyone else has cell phones, get them off the table, please.
the
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
I just sat there for like 5 hours watching that.
Yeah, but the Pentagon was what really freaked me out, because you don't expect the headquarters of the military-industrial complex to be
Right.
vulnerable, you know. And you know, I researched the whole conspiracy theory for a long time, and man, it's just a rabbit hole. It's like JFK. Like, you just never know. Like, there's so much convincing evidence on both sides. Conspiracy, not a obviously was a conspiracy, but
that a building would fall straight down. That's the only problem I have with it. The way they came down.
well, there's a lot
It's
of
so
other
weird,
stuff.
man.
Yeah, I know.
Building 7. I got some friends who are just like, they're like, nope.
Yeah,
It's
well, the way the iron beams were sliced through too was odd.
yeah. I don't know.
Anyway,
Well, when it actually happened, there were a ton of reports of explosions,
yep,
and even
witnesses.
even
still.
the FBI, their leading theory at the time was that there was all the planes hit, but that there also was something at the base of the building with explosives that got detonated.
Like in the garage or something.
Yeah, like in the garage.
Because
or
those
somewhere.
garage, I know. Like I have.
Because that's what happened the first time.
right.
The first bombing at World Trade Center was
The
in
90s.
in the garage. Yeah,
Yep.
with a truck bomb.
I have a cool World Trade Center story instead of anger management later if you want. It's kind of in the same line because I got like it's funny.
Well, throw it in now, man. Might as well.
Okay, so we're at the World Trade Center, me and two of my buddies, and we're up top drinking, and I barely turned 21, so we get really drunk up there. We're looking out. We're on the way back down, and we were in this this is a strange phase where we were chopping each other in the neck. You got caught talking shit, and
Yeah.
you could get the neck chop.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that started a little brawl. So as we're coming down, we start brawling in the I neck chop my buddy Jimmy. We start brawling in the elevator. And again, we're really drunk. So all this time passes after we brawl. We like wrestle around there for a while. All this time passes and we're not down to the bottom yet. So it starts to seem a little weird, and then the doors open and this family gets in and the doors close, and then we start to realize like we're not moving. It doesn't matter what what buttons we push on the elevator. We're not going anywhere. We're still on the same floor. And then I noticed those bells, dude. Like, what are those bells going off? Well, then the door opens again, and there's like 5 Port Authority police officers out there, and they get the family out, and they're like, we start to walk out, and they're like, wait, just chill right there, fellas.
Was you guys?
Yeah,
We were after.
yeah, yeah. They like
Why? Just for rowdiness?
well. We somehow initiated the emergency stop button on the elevator in our brawl. So the guy's like, he's mad, man, and they're huge, and I was so little. They're really, really, really pissed off, and you can tell it's like that seething underlying anger where the dude really wants to hurt you, and he's like, I'm like, I said, we didn't do it, and he's like, you fucking did it, bro. There's cameras in the elevators. And he's like, okay, let me tell you what you fucking did, dummy. He's like, when you hit the emergency stop button in one of these elevators, it stops all the fucking elevators in the whole building.
Yeah,
because the system thinks there's a fire.
You erased like $6 million in profits from companies in that building.
I'm telling you, these guys wanted to hurt us. And he said, now we have to go floor to floor, which there's 107 of, friend, and make sure that there's no fire before they can restart the elevators.
Oh, God.
So while we're doing that, you guys are gonna take a walk to the basement. I'm so drunk I forget that that's where we parked. So I think the basement is where we're going to die. So he's like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "Arizona." So he's like, "Oh, where's your cowboy hat?" And I'm like, you know, this may surprise you, but we got like indoor plumbing, BMW dealerships. The guy behind me in that thick ass New York accent, he's like, "Now's not the time to be fucking funny." And so I'm like, okay, I'm really close to the edge, so I'm not gonna mess them anymore. My friends are super scared. They're these two Sierra Vista guys that barely ever leave town, so they're just like quiet.
Yeah.
And they walk us to the basement, and I'm like, should we be driving? He's like, I don't give a fuck. You're driving out of here. And they escorted us in a little golf cart, and the guy like patted us on top of the car, and he said, "Hey man," he's like, "thanks for visiting. If you ever come back to New York, just remember, you've already seen the World Trade Center." And I remember saying, I said, thank you for not beating us up.
Yeah.
He's like, "You're welcome."
Yeah.
Like, he knew he let us off. Like, we should have been beaten for that. Probably.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I think so. Cops sometimes pretty nice guys.
Yeah, we had really good experience with the NYPD on New Year's Eve when we were in Times Square a couple of years ago. They were awesome, man.
Did you ever fight that guy? I forget. Like, you were going to fight some guy.
Oh no, he followed me down to the bathroom too, but then and he was sneaking up on me completely. I didn't even know he was there. I was peeing, and then I turn around, and this huge dude is behind me because of an earlier altercation, and but the bouncers had followed him down. They knew what was up. I think Paula actually let them know, and they grabbed him.
Well, they might have saved him from getting hurt, though.
Yeah, I mean, he was about 300 pounds, but you know,
no jiu-jitsu.
And it would have been a horrible, because there was like an inch of water on the bathroom floor of like brown water. So it would have been I would have just been soaked in death, you know, just from rolling around if we had gotten into a fight.
But like a billion gladiator man points, dude. Just like billions of them.
I just would have had to rip off my shirt and throw it in the garbage and spend the rest of the night.
Naked, walk home naked, just swinging. I'm a Yankee Doodle fucking dandy.
Yeah, so you guys ever hear of Right Wing News? It's a Facebook. It's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So they're on the extremist side of things, and just a lot of like hate on that thing. And I'm used to it. It doesn't surprise me, but I don't know why this got to me so much. Because a guy we know that I'm friends with on Facebook, he loves that page. And he clicks like on their stuff all the time. And so, first of all, I see this story because he's one of my friends and he liked it. And so they post an article, because on the couple days ago, on that day, in Mecca, the holy city and whatnot, in Saudi Arabia, or I guess, I thought it was in Iran, but it's not. It's in Saudi Arabia. Anyway, wherever it is, there they have the Grand
Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Yeah, I got no plans to go there, so I haven't indexed it.
They have the Grand Mosque. It's like their central
There's a pilgrimage to Mecca.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big fucking deal for Islam. Yeah.
And like I don't know, some construction crane was working there, and the wind got really windy, and this thing fell over and killed 107 people and injured like 800 people. So it was this horrible death, just blood everywhere. This tragic, horrible thing. So Right Wing News posts the article without comment. They just stick it there. And first of all, the question is, why are they putting this article up? What does this have to do with right-wing news? Well, it's just obviously because they knew what would come next in the comments.
Ha ha, die, bitch, die, that kind of stuff.
Literally. So, so then, okay, so yeah.
I went and read them after
You
you,
did?
after
Thank
you
you.
asked me to. And
What was your impression?
okay, I literally, there were like 437 comments on it when I got on there, and I'll bet you I read 200 of them. And every single one like was like, oh, you get what you deserve. This is our, like, I'm going to paraphrase, but this is our Lord, all powerful, striking down with lightning and fucking storms from the sky. This was God's will. Like, just like you said, it was Allah's will. You're supposed to be fucking dead. There's more to come. Like, yihad, jihad.
Wish the body count was higher.
Yeah.
I only wish it had killed more.
Hoping for more.
But come on, this is surprising.
No, that's the thing.
That's the thing.
I'm surprised that I was surprised at it because it's not surprising. But for some reason, Mark, this got to me. I don't know why. It may be. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just a tree hugging liberal, but like
I got another idea
go
about
on the
why,
internet
bro.
and
No, I
find,
know.
I
and
got
find
another-
a Taylor Swift video.
I know, but this is such
on
a
YouTube.
But this
and
is,
there's like similar comments.
yeah, I know.
on that.
Right.
But this is just a story about an accident that killed a lot of innocent people, men, women, and children.
I got
But
an
they're
idea
Muslims.
about why it
Yeah.
bothers you.
So-
Because for a while you embraced Christianity.
Right.
You did. And I'm sure you saw the good things that it can bring about. And in most of those, in the vast majority of the 200 and something comments that I read, they referred to the Christian God in some way. And their comments were whatever in God's name, so to speak.
Well, like even I'll read a few. Scooter Tramp writes, ironic that it happened on 9/11, isn't it? I don't think that fits the definition of irony, but that's obviously a religious. Obviously, the meaning there is if it's ironic.
Well, it's comeuppance.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next one, God struck back on 9/11.
God struck back.
The next one, America isn't dancing in the streets like them fucking Muslims on 9/11. You reap what you sow. You guys are dancing in the streets. You're celebrating the death of the people.
Well, you're dancing on the Facebook
Yeah,
street,
it's
but
the same thing. You're
Yeah.
celebrating the death of innocent people, just like some Muslims did on 9/11. This next guy still doesn't even begin to make up for the 3,000 dead on 9/11. They have more coming to them. Next one, karma's a bitch. Hate to tell you guys, karma is a Buddhist concept. So are you getting a little mixed up here? Like all these Christians are talking about karma.
Well, they don't even know what karma is.
They don't.
because That's not what karma is.
No, it isn't.
because if
Pieces
you-
of shit. That's the wind of the Americans getting revenge and the lightning of our soldiers. Fuck off, Muslims. 72 virgins, 72 virgins, 72 virgins.
that's kind of funny in a fucked up way, but I mean, that's fucking awful. But
Good,
it's
here's
funny.
one. Good news on a sad day. That's what this guy concluded.
Well,
this
it's-
is good news.
What's funny is
All these mangled bodies.
so
and
on 9/11
fatherless
of
children.
2001, Muslims could have said the same thing.
And some of them
And-
did.
And did, I'm sure.
A lot of them did.
And actually, or not even Muslims, but people from Chile could have said the same
Yeah.
thing because in 1973, September 11th, is when Pinochet took power, who was backed by the U.S., and I'm sorry, but about 60,000 people ended up dead because of it. So,
Artists, professors, intellectuals,
Right.
rounded them all up.
Yeah.
The famous musician, I forget his name, all just slaughtered on a soccer field in front of everybody. Pinochet, Chile, exactly. And much higher body count. And that was a 9/11 thing, too.
right.
But, I mean, anyway, it's just, to me, it's just, I guess I just expected more extremists to be like, oh, this was an accident that befell onto people who have nothing to do with 9/11.
Well, you said extremist.
Supernatural
and that's not-
kooks are supernatural kooks,
Yeah.
man.
It's. I just think it upset you because like you don't want to be on the level like where our previous guest Matt and Eddie and them guys are on the
Yeah.
whole. Like I'm sick of like. I posted a song
The
by Bad
atheists
Religion the
who
other
are
day. Like
particularly
like
sick
they're
of
angry. They're
of
angry
Islam.
about it.
Yeah.
And I told Christine, I said, I think John's at the tipping point where he might be so tired of hearing the hateful rhetoric that he don't want to hear any Christian talk at all. He might be getting there, like to where, because the people that are claiming to be the most Christian, they're really the most hateful, bigoted people that are talking. Like they're screaming the loudest about it. But it's like it's like that's those song lyrics. Your actions speak so loud, I can't hear a word you're saying, man.
And another reason that it got me was this guy that we know, who's a nice guy in person. His comment was, "Ha, got him. Hashtag D's nuts. Hashtag karma." I mean, it's just such trivial. Like, there's all these dead people, like, and people with no limbs. Like, this is a real thing that happened. You know, this is a bad thing, and no matter who it happens to.
I would say
even if it
that
was
guy
a stadium full of child molesters, it would still be kind of
no,
unfortunate.
Not then. It wouldn't. It wouldn't be unfortunate at all. It would be glorious. I'd dance.
Yeah.
I'd do the Futter Wagon or whatever Depp does at the end of Alice in Wonderland.
Well, so then,
Could you see Beef doing the Futter Wagon? Yeah.
so then
We
I
could
think
do a
like.
duet.
Then I get like uber liberal / Christian in my thinking, and I think, well, all right, these people making these horrible comments, they must have some horrible pain going on, you know. I mean, I'm sure some of them have dead sons from military action in Iraq and Afghanistan, so they view that, or even dead relatives from the towers. Maybe a couple of them, you know.
Well, plus if you
but I'm thinking like there's got to be something bad going on in their heads.
Well, the way the media feeds that fear and makes it an all-encompassing enemy. Like I remember sitting in a bar in Germany in the 80s, and the height of the Cold War, kind of. We're American kids, and we're talking shit about Russians. Talking shit about the Russians because they were our enemy, you know, basically our quote-unquote enemy. And these two guys at the bar turn around, and they show us red passports. They're from Russia. And so we start talking to these guys, and they're like, "Do you know?" The guy asked me right away. He's like, "Do you know any Russians?" And I'm like, "I don't know any Russians."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, let's drink. You can meet some Russians. We'll meet some Americans because I don't know any Americans."
Yeah.
So we start talking. And he said, "You know, you really think Russians are bad people?" He's like, "Do you think that Russians want war? Do you think that the Russian man, the average Russian man, wants war with Americans?" He's like, "We don't." He's like, "Our governments might, but we don't." And that, like, at 15 years old, I got to thinking, like, well, if the people don't want war, how the fuck can our government want war if they represent us?
Yeah.
And it was kind of my first experience with our government doesn't really represent us. They represent the special interest us. And they maybe always kind of have.
To a large extent, if not entirely.
But I mean, like, I don't...
But, you know,
I know some Muslims. I do know some Muslims, and they've been really... The ones I know were fairly nice people.
This apartment
far as I
complex
can
is
tell.
full of Muslims, and some of them pretty conservative. There's a group of women who wear the full burqa. I'm talking only the eyes are showing, and they let their kids, you know, play on the playground, and they sit out there together. And that is really kind of like unnerving when you see that full burqa. Like it's really shocking because it's just this huge black veil. It's really weird. But anyway, they're all just family people here. I mean, I don't know if you know, maybe they don't like our government. I have no idea, but they're all just
what would make them any different from us?
Yeah,
I don't fucking like our government. I know I don't even have to hear what Beef has to say about it because I know he doesn't like it.
Well, so we're talking about all these Christians posting these horrible things on that story, and and I know exactly what my mom is thinking when she hears this. She's thinking, yeah, but that's not most Christians. You know, the Christians she knows never makes racial slurs about Muslims or anything. And they don't get in your face about abortion or anything. You know, it's just people are just people. And she's right, of course. It's not the majority. And that's the whole thing with the Christian versus Muslim debate. First of all, neither the terrorists and the bad people in each group are not the majority. And secondly, we're all of us normal, rational people are watching these extremists and laughing because to us, the Christians that hate the Muslims and those Islamists, they're the same people. They're the exact same people. You believe in Wahhabism, that the Quran is literally word for word true. On this side, we have the fundamentalist Christians who believe that their book is word for word true.
But you know what the difference is, though? The commitment to that. Because the Muslims that believe in whatever you called it, the Quran is a literal translation, they don't fucking pick and choose what works for them out of there. They live by the literal word of it.
Yeah, every little rule.
The fucking extreme Christians fucking pick and choose.
No, that's not true. The Muslims pick and choose as well. Because, like, all the terrorists that came over... Yeah, the terrorists who fucking blew up World Trade Center, crashed planes... Before that, for the couple years that they were here training and stuff, they were going to strip clubs, drinking, blah blah blah, whatever. So that's I'm sorry, but Islam is against that.
All right.
Yeah,
So they're picking and choosing.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But they're also, I mean, another difference is that in today's world, they're taking it much further.
I think
They're blowing shit up.
I think the main
radical-
difference is the majority of Christians have pretty okay lives. They don't have shitty lives. The majority of
Until you get down to the third world.
well, yeah, but the majority of Muslims that are in the third world, in Mideast countries, their lives aren't that great. So they don't have much to lose.
That's what I think.
And that's what they're, the ones that are at least being brought into the fold to become terrorists, radicalized and stuff.
They're young boys.
Yeah.
They got nothing. And they tell them, hey, I'm going to give you $50 if you go and do some small errand. And they do it. And then they give them $100, the money they've never seen before, to do little errands. And it's just like gangs. That's how you get young kids into gangs. You give them money that they've never had before, and they're like, wow, this is a really good economic opportunity for me.
Have you,
Jeff, what do you think, man? And give me a conservative slant and tell me if I'm off on this, or why a resentment of this people is justified. And there's liberals like Sam Harris who would say the same thing. A lot of new atheists are very deeply against Islam.
I think people making the comments about die Muzzy die.
Yeah.
I think they were douchebags anyway, and this gives them an open forum of which they can find plenty of support that they can openly display their douchebagginess and give it a stamp of approval. So I think ultimately there's just a bunch of cocksuck wannabe anything because they have nothing of their own.
But do you think their anger at, say, liberals who don't really recognize or the liberals who are too quick to forgive Muslims and for things like 9/11? I mean, should we still hold some anger in our heart about that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, no, I don't think we should be angry at Muslims.
Yeah.
Just enemies.
The people who did it, Yeah.
Well,
I still think about the individuals that are involved.
Right.
Like, you're responsible for your own personal actions.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue that I feel like religion is poisonous to people, because it is, in my mind, in that way, when you take it to an extreme. If you're willing to martyr yourself and kill a bunch of innocent people for what you feel like is a religious cause, then I think you're fucking warped. You got problems, and that contributed to it.
But it's another thing altogether to say that religion is poisonous. In other words, if you take a guy with, say, a 6 out of 10 moral character, and you start teaching him religion, is he going to go down to a 5 and then a 4?
Well, it depends on how seriously he takes it. I mean, if he goes all Old Testament, I think.
But what if he gets really serious about the life of Jesus and emulating Jesus?
Well, that's not a bad thing, and I've never
then he has to
contended
die
that
when he's 33 years old at the hands of the Romans.
I just turned 33.
I've never contended that it was a bad thing. I rarely bring it up unless somebody says something to me about it. I'm not a Sam Harris militant atheist where I'm trying to convert you. I don't.
You don't think it's always a deteriorating effect on a person?
No, because I read it. And if you live by those tenets, you're probably going to, the New Testament anyway.
Right,
Jesus. You're probably going to be a pretty good fucking guy, man.
Right.
You're going to be a good person. You're going to live a good life. You're going to give back. You're going to leave the world a better place than you found it. You're going to be a good dude. What I don't understand is how much fire and brimstone comes out of that book that I read. And I wonder, if a lot of those Christians talking, have you read the fucking Bible? Do you know the teachings of Jesus? Because he wasn't really a
Definitely
fucking
not.
violent guy, y'all. He really wasn't a violent guy.
He didn't say anything against homosexuality.
And the people that the militant Christians are picking as their spokespeople, you have Kim Davis as your spokesperson for the sanctity of marriage. He's been married 4 times and is a fucking adulteress, an admitted adulteress. And that's your psycho-Christian example of the sanctity of marriage?
Yeah, so
That's fucking insane.
Well, they'll say that she did that before she was saved. She has only been saved for 4 years, so all that stuff happened previous to that.
Plus, I thought of another.
So you can't hold it against.
Yeah, I thought of another argument they could make, which is that we all sin. Those were individual sins that she did, and they can be forgiven. But homosexuality is a lifestyle.
It's an unforgivable sin.
It's continual sin. So that's why it's worse than what she did.
So that situation, have you heard that thing about the Oath Keepers?
Yeah. Armed white
the
people.
armed Christian militia that's supposedly coming down to Kentucky and forming up to prevent her pending arrest. They're going to stand against the feds. So are they terrorists?
I don't know. What do you think, Jeff? Because, I mean...
Are they is that terrorism?
You don't think they're terrorists. Those are people standing up for Second Amendment and standing up to a liberal government right? I mean,
No.
Armed resistance against
come on,
the
man,
federal
give me
government.
something.
What I see is a bunch of misguided people who are angry at something, and they're choosing that for whatever reason. They've chosen that as their subject. It's making their news. I don't see anything more than just small-minded people.
Really?
Yeah, they're I'm sure they're going to. There's going to be plenty of chance of, I'm going to use my Second Amendment rights to protect your First Amendment rights. Blah blah blah. Okay, you don't have the legs for the cheerleaders, guys, but you've got the mags for it.
So, but on a level of principle, you believe. I mean, and I think I do, and probably all of us do, that people should have the American government was formed with the idea that people could stand up against it if the government started
Absolutely.
becoming a tyranny.
All
You
day
just
long.
don't think that anything justifying that action has happened yet in this country?
I think no, I don't think there's been anything unified enough because everyone has their own special interests. There's too many people.
No, I mean, like, you don't think any injustice has been done by the government deserving armed demonstrations or resistance?
Yeah, it started right around 1964.
You're saying people should armed against
Yeah, that little
civil
pesky
rights abuses?
That little civil rights
or
and
Vietnam?
Yeah, no, it's been going on for a while. I think that where I see discrepancies, how it's never going to happen again, is the technological differences. In the Revolutionary War, I got a gun, I got a musket, you got a musket. Great.
Right.
You have a bigger boat than me. Well, guess what? You have to sail your ass on over to get me.
Yeah.
Today, I don't have a B-1 bomber.
Yeah, you're never gonna stand
Yeah.
up even to a local SWAT team.
You're not gonna win.
You're not gonna last.
Well, and
10
just look at
seconds.
just
Well,
the
but
Ruby Ridges and
but
whatnot.
that's still. I
Ruby
mean,
Ridge,
that's a good argument. But at the same time, you can say, well, look at Vietnam. Look at Afghanistan. Look at places where there
They
is an
resist
armed resistance,
with very
and we're
little.
not getting rid of them. And
Yeah.
guess what? They don't have the shit we do.
ISIS.
We've
My-
got way more better equipment than they do. We're more technologically advanced. And guess what? Still this small
The
whatever.
American Revolution.
I guess.
mean,
I guess what my point was driving at was, is the American public going to stand up like that? No, they're not going to.
They
But
might
we're
if they're
gonna-
pushed hard enough, but
but what
they
they're
have to
gonna
really
do
be
is-
pushed hard
and if their
enough.
comforts are taken away from
Yeah.
them.
Okay, I was trying to drive at that. Is
Yeah.
at some point, you turn off the water, and all of a sudden, gas is too expensive. Now this affects me. Six-figure income. Now I see it as a problem.
I think though that Americans are so fucking self-centered that if it broke down like that, I don't think it would lead to organized resistance. I think it would
Well,
lead to dog-eat-dog fucking chaos.
Nobody knows their neighbor. How do you organize if you don't know your neighbors?
Yeah,
like you said, we're not uniform.
We're so self-involved,
Yeah.
man. We
Well,
don't.
what you'll get is the Sunday football people will get together, and then they'll fraction off into AFC versus NFC, and then, there'll be some.
That's why I think that The Walking Dead hits so close to home for a lot of people, because instinctively we know it's going to be like that. You're going to band up with small groups of people. It's not going to be big, organized.
No.
There's little militias and stuff, but they're going to get targeted first and wrecked.
or they'll have dissent within them.
Yeah.
There'll be arguments about leadership, and they'll kill each
sure.
other.
Yeah,
If it
the
falls apart,
bureaucracy will
the-
have it fall apart. so
Imagine if
quickly.
you were leading one of those groups and you were just kind of
Road
Yeah,
to
it'd be a
daily.
group of two.
barely considered like their leader, but there were other dudes
That were pining for your
other
spot.
alpha males that didn't like where you were taking them, or they disagreed, about where we
Well, I
should
mean,
go
think
next.
about it, dude. The four of us are sitting at the table. Do you really want to take orders from any one of us about
No,
shit
yeah.
that's going to affect the rest of your life and your
Yeah.
immediate future and how much pain you're going to suffer? And
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
I
we'd all
want
try
to be
to-
in charge of that fucking
Right.
decision.
We'd all try to get along for a while, and then the tempers would fray, and then one of us would be like, "No, we're not going there. I'm protecting my people, and we're not going there. We're going here."
At some point, there's going to be a disagreement, and
We'd
like,
be
no,
like,
that's
all
going to
right.
get us fucking killed. I'm not doing
Right.
it. The only organized people would be like, if it fell apart like that, and you had like armed resistance or revolution or collapse or whatever. The only organized people would be the different military units that split off and stuck to the hierarchy, where they had respect for that CO. And
Yeah.
like, if it fell apart to that degree, which I can't imagine it, man. I just can't imagine.
I
Here's a
don't-
head check
I don't-
right now. If it all fell apart, name the first three things you would grab.
My wife,
Besides people,
besides
and cats.
people.
Besides people and
Doesn't
cats.
matter.
Oh no.
But when you start asking that, all of a sudden, no one said, "Well, I'm going to grab a constitution to make sure that that's not going to burn and somehow erase it." It was something personal.
Well, it's got to be a gun if you have one, and then it has to
I
be.
have one.
But it's
Yeah.
personal. You're not like, I'm going to go grab medical kits so I can help people. No, I'm going to grab some food for me. I'm going to grab something for shelter. I'm going to grab a gun. I'm going to grab a wife,
Honestly,
kids, whatever.
I got a jump bag and I got everything in my safe ready to go. Like, I'm grabbing my backpack that I take backpacking and my shit, and I'm out the fucking door.
If you can leave some of the fiction or nonfiction of the Minutemen and whatnot, as hey, Johnny, get with your dad, grab your guns, we're going to Concord, and we all lined up. And there's plenty of historical truth to that. It was, that's what you did because we were colonists and we don't.
But
like
that wasn't even the majority of citizens at the time.
Well, and another thing too, you had.
There were plenty of
British
people that
citizens.
were on the British side.
Absolutely.
There were plenty of people that were probably neutral and didn't want to fucking be involved at all.
No, I've got
because the status quo
please.
for them is not so bad. Like, if things aren't so bad, if you're comfortable, like you said, unless your comforts are taken away.
Oh, a lot of people had ties to Britain with economically, business. We were exporting goods there a lot.
Right.
So a lot of
But
Washington had a lot of
even
ties.
and I think we talked about it before. Like, it's not in your face. You turn on the faucet, water comes out. Like, you have air conditioning.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be any crisis.
So I think the technology, back then, if you didn't plow your fields, you didn't eat. If I'm late on a payment, I have a lien placed on me by some magic thing it's like, well, show me this lien. Where's a pound of it? What color is it?
Right.
I don't know, but either way, we're not going to give you this money for this loan you need. And look, now you have to, sell shit that you like, and that cord can be yanked at any time. And I think a lot of people, whether they think about it or not, in their subconscious, they know that we're all walking on thin ice, that our government's controlling, and maybe even not the government, some sort of world government, like we talked the Brandenburg conferences and all that. Bilderberg. So I think a lot of people are just not as informed, or even think about it enough, and they just know that they're scared, and they're grabbing Twinkies and ho-hos, man. And I'm just going to feed my kids tonight, and I don't care what else happens. Oh wait, and I'm going to steal some shit,
right.
And I want someone else to fix my pain. And
I don't know if there's any really historical examples of societies with vast infrastructures just breaking down overnight. I don't think that really happens. I mean, you can, even in a major natural disaster, some of the country would be, even if Yellowstone went, the East Coast would still be functioning and they can, refugees would move east, and they would open up stadiums and shit to feed them. I mean, it would be a mess. I mean, millions would die, but
Can you imagine?
But it wouldn't all just break down.
No, of course not.
Now, unless the electricity grid in the U.S. is very old-fashioned and very tenuous, and there's basically like 3 hubs that control like 70% of it. So a terrorist attack coordinated on the power grid would be very... I mean, they could have it up probably again in a couple months, but that's a couple months without power.
In nursing school, we were talking about weapons of mass destruction because it was germane at that point. And some video, the guy says, "Yeah, you want to kill America? Put it on the salt, in the water, and on the money, and that's the end of it."
Yeah, like some sort of
any
poison.
sort of bacteria, virus, or anything. But he said, that dollar bill you had in your pocket, where was it yesterday?
Oh yeah.
And, okay, where's it been for the last 10 years? It's there's a stamp
good
on
argument
it.
against cash.
Yeah.
Oh, that's macro.
Because I know where my credit card was yesterday.
But on the other hand, if the government says we no longer like Bryan Richter, let's turn his card off for any reason.
Oh,
whatsoever.
yeah.
Well, if they decide they don't like me, they'll just turn me off. I don't have any doubts about that.
Yeah.
I guess my point
I've read
is
enough
when you
books
can't-
and seen enough shows to know the government can black you out. They'll deny that I ever existed. My friends will be like, "No, he was on the podcast." They're like, "What podcast?
Yeah.
Right.
What John
who
Berger?"
Who all was listening to that podcast?
Yeah.
Could we have that list, please?
Yeah.
John's mom.
Yeah, there's 27 people, dude. We got more
Yeah.
shows than listeners. But I've gotten messages from people that listen to the show.
Yeah,
like,
me too. Yeah.
it's and it makes me. I gotta say, like the guys who sent me messages, it makes me happy. Like that people are listening.
Did we go too far afield?
I don't know.
Okay, good.
No,
we can-
we're wide open, dude. This
Yeah.
is radical.
So I talked to my mom. She listens to the show, and she liked it, the last episode and everything. And so her impressions were, she's like, Bryan, he's great. He's energetic and articulate. She's like, obviously crazy, but
That's with a K.
yeah,
Crazy.
but she thought you were a great part of the show. Mark, she also was like, he's really hard to pin down as to what it is he thinks. And I'm like, yeah, because he doesn't
He
think
thinks
anything.
you're
Yeah, he
wrong.
thinks you're wrong.
That's what I know what Mark thinks. He thinks
Yeah.
you're wrong.
If you're talking,
And it's awesome.
which is exactly what we need on this show because
Yeah.
it pokes a hole into every
Yeah.
little confident statement.
I think it's the funniest thing ever said on the show. When you asked him, is it when somebody starts talking or has an opinion that you disagree with them? Is that when it starts?
And then she's like, "Is Mark like a lot younger than you guys?" And that was her guess, and I was like, "No, I think he's the oldest guy there."
I think you probably are, right?
Yeah, because you just turned, what, 43?
How old am I? It's
don't know.
2015. I'm 44.
44.
It's
yeah.
my Magnum. I'm
What
on
are
my
you?
Magnum birthday.
46,
45.
45.
I'm
You're on
46
the
in
American
January.
Classic.
I'm the oldest.
You are really?
I just turned 46.
Oh my god!
Happy birthday to me, bitches.
Yeah, I just turned 33.
Oh, I remember those days.
Yeah.
Back in the day, walking uphill. Did you?
33.
God, we
Wow,
did-
a spring
We had to
chicken.
dial our phones when I was that age.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
And then she said that my role is to like have like research and history and like state the
You're the
scenario.
quarterback.
Yeah,
You're the
yeah.
quarterback. You have the playbook.
And then she was like, "Do the other guys like? Do they prepare for the show?" And I was like, "Ha, no,
Yeah, no,
never."
no, I don't. I like
Not
make sure I
formally.
smell right
Yeah.
and that like my socks aren't quitters, but that's about it. I did some preparation for today's show because I have to tell a story.
Oh yeah, That's gonna be
I
good.
drink a couple 40s and scream at a wall.
I brought beer.
I thought it would be a little more energetic because beef was in your ass yesterday, so I thought like we were gonna get a wilder show.
Yeah, we might. A part of this might just be, we might have to do an intervention on Mark today.
I know, that's right. We do an intervention.
It's an intervention about
Memes.
Internet trolling and
mean
serial
yeah.
derailing of threads.
serial derailing and trolling.
I gave some honorable mentions, though. I did. We have some friends who are really good at derailing.
Oh yeah, Arnie.
Yeah, Arnie,
So
our guy Jeff here.
anyway, the last point I wanted to make on the
The
is-
Muzzies dying.
yeah was Sam Harris. Like, you know,
This
so-
is the new atheist guy, Sam
Yeah,
Harris.
yeah.
Okay.
he can say if it doesn't make sense for me to say that like all Christians are like these people saying
Because
horrible
they're not.
comments,
I
right?
know good Christians, man.
And so it doesn't make sense for me to say that about Muslims, and so I'm consistent there. But Sam Harris can say that about Muslims because he spent his whole life fighting Christianity. He hates Christianity, so it's no problem for him to say, yeah, most Muslims are either like really bad or inclined to be
Inclined
bad
to-
or
to
inclined to
agree with
agree
that,
with that.
yeah.
He's like, and you can't tell him, well, oh, then all Christians are bad? Because he'll be like, yeah.
yeah,
Because he hates religion. He hates Christianity. So he can have that point that he's been making so vocally about Islam because he hates religion. So,
well, at least he's fair.
right.
It's across the board. Like you're all.
Yeah.
Well, and there's
You're all off.
there's a huge brick wall between saying I hate all religions and then arming up and shooting people because of their
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's something you don't
Oh, yeah.
hear, like the atheists in the South shelling the agnostics to the North.
No.
We don't. We're not going to fight over shit that's like. What would you fight over? Like, what would we fight over? Do you think if there was no religion,
Politics.
politics, territory,
which
land,
politics
resources?
becomes your religion because you're
Right, it's the same thing.
Muslim,
Ideology.
Christian,
Yeah,
versus
ideology.
the-
That's
Like,
exactly
didn't we
what the
talk about
show's
that?
all
It's not
about.
religion that's the problem. It's
my
ideology.
view. That's my opinion.
It's the dogmatic way it gets approached or
giving
interpreted.
It's giving up your intellectual sovereignty and moral sovereignty to an authority. It's just giving it up and saying, "Here, you tell me,
Which is-
tell me," and they call it faith.
Which is weird because you remember that doctor that was he's evangelical, and he was baffled by me. He's
Oh,
like, "You're
yeah.
a good person. I don't understand how you're not Christian." And I'm like,
Right.
"Oh, so it's you think that it's impossible to get here without having somebody tell you? You have to have someone tell you how to be a good person."
Implying, in other words, that if he didn't have religion,
Yeah.
he'd be a bad person.
What, you'd be raping and
Yeah.
murdering and killing and just fucking rampaging on
Maybe the
society
answer
because
is
you
yes.
didn't read that book?
Maybe the
Yeah,
answer
I
is yes.
have not reached my rape quota for the year
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
It's like
I
maybe
mean-
some people need ideology to keep them in line,
Yeah.
or else they would just
Well,
be
what's
crazy. I
weird
don't
is
know.
that you feel that way, yet somehow on a humanity scale, you elevate yourself above me because you have faith. Because you need someone to tell you how to behave. I don't.
Well,
I don't need anybody to tell me how to behave. I don't need you to tell me shit's wrong. I don't need the threat of everlasting, burning, fucking painful, infinite death to be a good guy. I don't need that.
right.
And do I step out of line? Yeah, sure. I've
Yeah.
fucked shit up a few times when I should have chilled. I've been mean when I should have been nice. I'm fucking far from perfect.
But you didn't take a jawbone to the ass of an ass to anybody, did you?
I didn't do what?
Take a jawbone of an ass and beat someone with it, did you? Because that's a religious thing.
Oh, a donkey?
No. I
was
never
trying
gave
to-
somebody
No.
a donkey beating.
I was trying to visualize how you could get a jawbone out of someone's ass.
No, an ass, a donkey.
Yeah.
Burrow.
I bet it's got a good hook in it. You could get a good swing if you found a big donkey.
And at no time have we sent any of our women out to the tent every 28 days.
What does that mean?
The
when,
red
they're on the,
tentacle.
when they're on the rag.
That's Old Testament
Yeah,
stuff.
That's old testicle.
Old testicle.
Some liberal group put up a billboard in Kim Davis's town,
Oh, wow.
and it said, "Dear Kim Davis, the fact that you can't sell your daughter for 3 goats and a pig is proof that we've already redefined marriage." In other words, that was part of the definition of marriage, back then in the Old Testament, and so we've already thrown that out. So redefining marriage isn't new.
No, it was. I read a thing about from Progressive Secular Humanist or something. This website about marriage ceremonies, pagan marriage ceremonies, way predating Christianity, and
Yeah.
it's and I think Beef has mentioned that a lot of times it's been a thing of convenience or a legal thing, joining of 2 farms, joining of 2 families, like kind of symbolic of a peace treaty between, like, didn't they used to marry like royals from Britain to royals from France? It was like
all the time.
symbolic.
That was the standard
Oh,
operating
the
procedure.
king of Spain was half the time German. Like, he wouldn't speak
Yeah.
Spanish. Same with England. There
Yeah,
was German
So,
rulers.
and don't you
But that
think a
was
lot of
divine
that
rights
was
of
like
king.
symbolic too? Like, oh, this is like between our countries, it's to bring
It's
us closer
diplomatic.
together.
It
Yeah,
was
it's
political.
Well, it's symbolic, but it was more to create a union, to create a
Right,
contract,
diplomacy.
Right,
so
exactly.
that you have
economic ties.
right. But it was for
basically.
convenience. It was for commerce. It was for
Yeah.
communication. It wasn't because they loved each other.
Well, and then if then somebody went to war with one of the countries, the other country would have their back,
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
His family.
Right,
The
because
love-
that you got an Englishman, or an English lady in the king's closet saying, "Hey, man, like fucking pitch in, dude."
The whole love thing with marriage is about 80 years old. Like, let's
Stop,
look at
man.
let's
It's
look at
today.
human
It's
history.
right now. You're looking at it sitting across the table. I love my wife. I've always loved my wife.
I know, but I'm just saying it's a new thing. That's not what
No.
people didn't think.
And what's weird is, to me, it's the only fucking reason to get married. Anybody who's listening, if you got married for any other reason other than you love that girl, you fucked it up. I don't care if you got rich, man. There's a, it's
Some
better.
black comedian was talking about African people and how like weird they are to African Americans. How like Africans are like. So he was like talking about a black guy, like an African hitting on a woman like here and being like marry me, and she's like, no, I don't really want to marry you. He's like, you will grow to love me.
You will- you will
Like,
grow
he's
to
just
love
not
me.
phased about that at
Yeah.
all. He's just like, you will grow to love me.
Well, I mean, that's still a thing in places where there's arranged marriages.
Hell yeah.
But to go back to so the whole Muslim, Christian, whatever. I think the majority of Muslims, Christians, whatever faith it is, they are decent people, and they're not trying to think that anyone that doesn't believe like them should be killed or stuff like that. But the problem is that they do not act on that, and they allow extremists to fucking speak for them and to say this stuff that's fucking nonsensical, and then
How would
and
they
then
stop
basically
them from doing
propagate that behavior. Like, how would you stop it? You stop it. You speak up and you go, no, this fucker, I'm a Christian,
but I think people
and
do,
I don't
but-
believe
well,
the same shit that they
A lot
do.
of people do, but that
How-
doesn't
no,
get
they- no,
that doesn't
they
get
don't.
news
No, they
coverage.
don't.
Well, I'll tell you what gets news coverage is like the 3 atheist bloggers in fucking Pakistan who've been macheted to fucking death for speaking out against extreme Islam, and that's what it gets you in those countries. It gets you cut the fuck
Yeah,
up.
exactly, dude.
You get killed.
You don't mess with ISIS.
Well,
No,
you-
they'll come fucking kill you and rape your
yeah,
daughters
yeah.
for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Right, but
40
they're-
times
but
before
there's-
lunch.
But they're still a minority. ISIS is still the minority, and the majority is still against that. So if the it's like anything. You're at a fucking show, and a couple Nazi boneheads show up, and they start fucking shit up. What happens? The rest of the crowd doesn't do anything, so the fucking Nazi boneheads get away with it. Now, if the fucking majority of the crowd would stand up and fucking knock those fuckers out, then guess what happens? That shit stops happening.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, Mark, one of my favorite things to do is fucking fight Nazi skinheads. I literally.
It's a victimless crime.
You ain't fucking kidding, man. I don't like. I read this thing by Joe Rogan, like how willing people are to get in fights that don't know how to fight.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and I was one of those guys.
Yeah.
Like I was willing to get in fights, and I did, and I didn't know how to fight. And now that I do know how to fight, it really does scare me a lot more.
Yeah.
It scares me to be in a fight more.
Yeah. It's just enlightenment.
But those guys, when you talk about Nazi skins coming in, I pictured them coming in and doing crazy shit at the show and like picking which one I'm going to get first. I'm like, he goes first. I'm getting that motherfucker first.
We know guys that have gotten in a lot of fights with those guys because we know skinhead guys who aren't racists at all. You know, they're against it like explicitly.
I got kicked out of Germany for fight. That's probably the worst anger management story I could tell. There, that one.
And they have these guys that we know have gotten into fights with other skinheads who come up to them and they're like, yeah, and like try to be buddies with them, and then they see all the like Hitler tattoos and then they beat them up because these guys have a chip on their shoulder anyway, so they're waiting to beat someone up. So if they find some Nazis, it's like it's all good. Like this is a just way to beat someone up.
You're fucking asking for it. You're asking for it. You tattoo a swastika on yourself and you preach that Nazi bullshit. You're asking for it. I'm not down, man. I got relatives that are buried in Belgium from fucking fighting the Nazis.
Yeah.
You know, I was at the concentration camps. I saw where that shit went. It's not cool, man. You deserve to get your ass kicked.
Well,
I don't know how we got on that tangent, but I'll get right off track if we start talking about Nazis.
But I just mean that the majority of people
could stand up. But would you agree that the majority of people are scared? Especially when faced with immediate, imminent physical danger.
Well, I don't even think it's scared because the Americans over here that are Christians that don't believe the nonsense that the extremists are fucking spouting, it doesn't affect them.
Right.
So they don't fucking, they're like, whatever, you know.
I'm not going to
say anything
because chances are, like, and I will say this, when you have extremist Christians preaching their hateful rhetoric, and a moderate or liberal Christian speaks out against it, the chances of you being fucking dragged out of your home and butchered are pretty slim compared to that happening in one of those Muslim-dominated countries.
Yeah, but even still, the majority of Christians that think the shit that the extremists are spewing is wrong, they still don't say anything.
But Mark,
so why is that?
Where would you hear it if they did?
Yeah.
Where would you hear it?
Just if one guy said, that's not what I believe in his house, how would you ever hear about that?
Letters to the editor.
We're doing it right here.
Like fucking
but
anything.
that stuff exists.
Like, but I mean, so does the channels, Facebook, like all kinds of shit.
I know. I'm saying you'll find people all the time who say, I'm a Christian, I don't believe in Westboro Baptist. I mean, it happens all the time. I know.
I'm not talking about Westboro Baptist because pretty much
even
Fox News will fucking say Westboro Baptist.
Well, I got plenty of Christians on my friends who disagree with Kim Davis too and have said so. Well, a couple at least.
Yeah, a couple.
But there's no, like, you don't see. Isn't there like a head cardinal in the United States or something? He's like,
there's an archbishop.
Why isn't he speaking out against this bullshit? Why isn't he saying this isn't what Christianity is about? This isn't Jesus' fucking message.
Right, yeah,
well,
like
it's part of Catholic
say,
dogma that homosexuality is a sin. So they're not gonna.
Right, but there's also a lot of other things in Catholic dogma that are sins that radical Christians don't really seem to fucking care about.
Yeah.
So read the book.
Well,
folks.
they're not Catholics. The radical Christians are almost never Catholics.
They're radical.
They're Protestant
Christians that are Catholics.
There are a few, not many.
Some of the abortion shooters have been Catholics.
Yeah, they have.
You know, so. But no,
the majority of Catholics vote Democrat.
The leaders of the church could be coming out and saying stuff.
Do you think that's Catholic guilt?
And that's
why they vote Democrat? Help the poor, feed the sick.
It could be. But that's the thing too. Like, what is it that the worst thing to happen isn't for evil men to do something, but for good men to do nothing. Right?
Yeah. So. Well, you have a good point. Politics. Rick Perry, longest-serving Texas governor of all time, is out of the race. He has closed down. Closed shop. He got into some tiffs with Trumpy Doodle and
got owned.
And now he's done. He has no money. And now the campaign's over.
That's just
so.
It's such a clown car on the Republican side. It's a clown car.
I mean, Trump's sitting at 30% now. He's just going. He's still going up slowly.
Did you think it would last this long?
No.
I didn't either. I thought the bottom would fall out in a couple weeks.
Oh, I was certain of it. Now, and the second place guy is Ben Carson, the black neurosurgeon, also never served in any political office.
Huge hypocrite, though, too, against all these like public programs, but grew up on them. Yeah. My mom and I had this discussion the other day.
What'd she say to that?
No, he's a good candidate. I'm like, no, Mom, he's a fucking dud. The guy's against everything that got him where he is. He is a model of what public assistance can do for a poor kid, yet he's fucking against all of it. And you know what that makes him? A fucking asshole in the pocket of corporate lobby, period.
You know, the popularity of Trump and Carson is all based on them not being politicians. So you got to like this about Republican voters right now, that they're saying they're sick of it. They don't want these guys. They don't want the Bush.
I actually do like that, and I noticed that.
Yeah.
That the Republicans are fucking tired of it, too.
They're really tired of it. And the Bernie Sanders supporters, a similar proportion of voters on the left as on the right are supporting Bernie Sanders
rather than the establishment
for a similar reason.
Even though he is kind of
the establishment. He's been a politician for how long?
He's a career
politician. Well, you know, I will say somebody, and maybe it was one of your friends or one of your friends that wrote, you know, if you think you're being revolutionary by voting for Bernie Sanders, you're not. 98% of time he votes the Democratic ticket.
Right.
Like, you're not being a revolutionary.
Right.
He votes Democratic 98% of the time.
Yeah.
So you're still kind of, in a way, voting for the establishment.
Well, in some to an extent.
Well,
yeah.
and he even came. So this is my anti Bernie Sanders, or not even anti Bernie Sanders, but anti-voting Bernie Sanders. So he even came out. I don't know if you guys watched it, and it was in was it in Iowa? I forget where he made this speech at, and he basically said, "I'm going to tell you this, and no other candidate will ever tell you this. No single candidate that if you elect them can alter the stuff that you want them to alter.
Yeah.
Can do anything about fucking Wall Street, fucking...
In other words, the president doesn't have the power to change.
So he says what this campaign is about is getting a grassroots movement started.
Yeah.
Not even about him getting elected. So my thing is, it's not about voting for him. We don't need to vote for him. What we need to get is a grassroots movement, a majority of Americans to agree on certain issues and be
steadfast,
cognizant of those issues and understand them and understand what needs to change. And that involves talking about it, arguing on Facebook, whatever, getting shit out there. It doesn't involve you go into the fucking voting booth and voting for Bernie Sanders. Because he has himself proclaimed he can't do a fucking thing about it.
And all he's doing is telling you the truth.
Right?
And I've had this discussion with my mother 100 times. She's always like, Obama, Obama, Obama. I'm like, Obama's one fucking dude. And Congress can shoot down any fucking thing they want to.
And
he doesn't have the power that you give him mythically.
Yeah.
Like, you've turned him into some mythical fucking all-powerful dragon, some omnipotent Obamish being. And he's just the fucking president, just like the last guy.
People don't understand. People don't understand the separation of powers and what Congress is. All laws are made by Congress. That they're the most powerful branch. They were supposed to be, and they have been. And the president has gotten more powers recently, the last few decades. But Congress is the most powerful branch of government.
And in that, let me ask you this, because this is one of my mom's big sticking points. Term limits for Congress.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to happen yesterday.
Yeah, and a ban on becoming a lobbyist or working for companies that you were involved with afterwards.
Yeah.
Which is what they do. So they get what they do.
Or before, if you were a lobbyist or worked for a corporation.
Yeah.
Before you can't become public.
That'd be a little hard to say. No one who's worked for a corporation can be elected. That's a little much.
If you were a lobbyist, though, you
can run for a political office. But you can't be on the board of anything that corporation is any issue that corporation is going to benefit from.
You have to cut all ties. You can't be making any money off of them. Not like when
Pete
Cheney
Rose.
was sitting
when
Cheney was sitting as vice president, raking it in off all Halliburton's contracts. That shouldn't be legal.
Yeah, and also Halliburton sold weapons to Iran too. So let's keep that in mind. Because all the memes are Obama's giving nuclear weapons to Iran. And I think a lot of the people who don't know anything read that, and they actually think that he's like shipping weapons over to them. But I'm like, Cheney's the guy who actually sold weapons to Iran. But
The
50% of senators go on to work as lobbyists. That's a statistic I read
They already
today.
have an
50%.
inside. They have an inside track.
And they get an average of a 1,400% raise in pay after they do so. In other words, the money they make as lobbyists is on average 1,400% of what they made as senators. What's the salary? Do they make $200,000 a year?
Something along those
Yeah.
Something like $250,000, something like that.
With all these other expenses paid.
So you times that
Healthcare
by
for life.
Yeah,
you
minus
times that
perks.
by 1,400.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good gig.
Yeah.
That's a good gig just for fucking bribing people because that's all you're really doing, right?
Yeah.
You take them out, you show them a good time, you give them a bunch of money, and they vote how you want.
And every few years, you have to convince a block of people that I'm doing a good job.
So, Mark, are you saying then that are you against voting basically?
No,
are you
I'm not
going to
against
vote
voting.
in the presidential election? Do you plan on it?
I'm sure I will, but not for. I might leave the president thing alone, or I might vote for Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck. Or,
So- third
Right
party,
in for
maybe?
Howard Stern.
So, like,
Third party, maybe.
yeah, maybe I'll vote for the Green Party or whoever.
how would it
But
work?
I'll vote for it for other reasons, other things that are in that, rather than I'm going to vote for the president and fuck
He's going to
everything
fix
else.
it. Yeah, yeah.
So how would you fix it if you had a reset button?
Like I said, I would make it so that it's citizen, appointed.
So like
Basically,
more
it's
local
like
town
it's
hall
like
type
voting,
government,
or not voting,
like
it's
city
like,
states.
Yeah, but also I would make elections, or not even elections, but be appointed like jury duty.
So
I
you're
think I have
appointed.
to-
You're by appointment. It's like a duty.
You have to, it's a duty.
it's a duty,
And then do like an IQ test,
and then
for
and then
that.
have it be like kind of like British Parliament, where then in that body, then they vote for who moves up
Represents
up another
as the president.
step, and then, stuff like that.
Yeah, in Britain, you vote the prime minister
it's just
election.
like
You
a-
vote for
a-
a party, and the party that wins has a guy.
So it's like a
And he
different
becomes the
kind of
prime
electoral vote.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't like how they appoint their own guy though, because then you have less control over who's.
Well,
in
then there
there.
could be a lot. I see that cronyism
but
all over that.
First of
yeah.
all, I would not. I'm not an advocate for any parties, so there would be no parties. It's you get a summons in the mail saying you have to show up at this date, and this is going to be your job for the next 2 years.
That's how they did it in the Italian city
conscription.
states in like the
Yeah,
1500s.
But you had direct contact with everybody there. You got 100 people.
Yeah, exactly.
200
Do you think
people.
that was
Because then, Mark, like David Duke can get his thing in the mail. You're going to be a senator now. Like,
Yeah, he could. And then there's
Kim
however many other
Kardashian
people
could
that
be a
Kanye
senator.
West.
she could. But
Kanye
then there's
West, well,
how many other
he's
people
running.
that are
whatever.
involved with him that have the same power as he does.
Would they really be any worse than what we're getting?
and they would feel accountable too. They would feel like all eyes were on
Oh
them.
yeah. No, you're gonna
Do you-
your name's gonna be in the news every day.
Yeah.
You're
Do you-
gonna be.
do you
There's
think-
gonna be a list of who the fuck is up there.
Do you think
And then-
if it was that way, it would lead to a greater sense of unity and nationalism and pride that could be maybe positive?
I think
Yeah,
it would be.
could be.
Like, because everybody would be a little more invested. Like, you're going to get your chance to make a difference or to at least be
So
a
you better be
voice.
boned
It's
up.
just how many
So be
competent,
ready to,
how
you know-
many per every 100 citizens,
How many
competent political leaders?
How many
are
people
in there?
would you say are even
How many
educated
yeah,
enough?
How many
to,
people that are in there now are competent?
A lot of them are competent.
Really? I
They're
don't
just
think so.
no. I think
don't
I think
so.
I think he's
They're-
right,
they're
but I think you're also
well-educated.
right. I think
They're
they're
lawyers
competent, but they're crooked.
Yeah,
No,
they're crooked.
I don't think they're competent to be political leaders. I think they're competent to live in this society and to make money and to go to college or
But a lot of them
run
are
some
lawyers. They
business or
understand
blah
law,
blah blah. But they're not. It doesn't matter. That's the problem too. There's too many fucking lawyers.
Yeah.
We need a broader spectrum.
Bill
Scientists,
Shakespeare.
fucking doctors,
Teachers.
fucking teachers.
Scholars.
Yeah, all kinds of
Couple
people
philosophers.
in that political office. We don't need just lawyers.
No.
Right.
Or businessmen. It's
Although
so,
the
it's so
although the
cold and
business of-
inhuman, that
but
whole...
the business of government is law, though.
I don't care.
But it's
it's also
all,
But it's
Foreign
also
depo-
military and diplomacy. Yeah, you're right. There's other things.
well, and beyond that, like, isn't the overall... And maybe because I'm drinking and feeling really good today, isn't the overall idea of government to make life better for the people.
Representatives of the people
So we
to give a mutual benefit. That's why I can't stand anarchists and libertarians.
So in
they just want to burn the whole thing down.
But like
No, they don't.
There's a
They
big
don't wanna burn the whole
Anarchists do.
thing. No,
We're going to burn the whole thing of government down.
Well, I want to admit to something. I want to
responsibility.
I really do like. Part of me wants to burn the whole thing down, Mark. I do. I want to watch the whole fucking thing burn.
Everybody does. That's why the zombie fantasy.
And watch it burn.
That's why the zombie fantasy is the number one rated thing on TV, and it's everywhere because people all are having that fantasy of burning it down.
No, that's not burning it down because
It's
if
a
it was
fantasy.
burning it down, then no one would be walking through trying to survive. They'd
No.
they'd
They're talking
just fucking
disintegration
lay
of
down.
the
government.
of the government,
The infrastructure.
Yeah.
Burning that down. That's what I'm talking about, anarchists.
Well,
Maybe-
but there's still government in Walking Dead. There's like
I know that's why it's
but-
so
it's
anarchists
not
are
burnt
so.
down.
As soon as if an anarchist got his wish and every bit of infrastructure and government just disappeared, the next thing that would happen the next day is a
People
group
would
of people would
reorganize.
get together and vote on things
and organize. Yeah.
in best case scenario, if they didn't all just murder each other for their goods, like in the best case scenario, they would sit
But
down.
still, in small groups, you would ally
Yeah, but
with
it's
each
small
other.
groups. I think a few weeks ago I advocated states' rights, cultural rights.
That's a big
versus the
conservative-
feds.
As long,
talking
and
point
I'm all
is-
for that, like going back to a more local level, but you have to like govern locally, but you have to think globally. You can't think only what's going to work for you going right here.
Plus-
you have to
oh,
think about how it's
plus-
going to affect people
But
in
that's
Pennsylvania.
what the feds was supposed to be for. Keep the trains running.
Right.
Do some foreign policy.
'Cause we
but
had
stay
this-
the fuck out of my house.
We had the states' rights things with the Article of Confederation.
I was gonna,
No
thank
president.
you. I was going to draw on that.
Yeah, there was no president. They couldn't tax you. They couldn't raise an army. There was a Congress, but it was weak. It was the Continental Congress, very weak. So we had 10 years of this country with
Is
no
this when the
president.
capital was in York, Pennsylvania?
It flew around 18 times.
First
and then
capital was
it-
York, Pennsylvania, right?
I don't know if it was the first, but yeah. And
They
then
had
there
a
was-
cabal there where they decided that George Washington was going to be the president, and it's the site where the first rifle company that eventually became the U.S. Army ever marshaled.
Yeah, and it later
It's
became
my hometown too.
later became the home of the Klan.
York, Pennsylvania?
Yeah,
Seriously, was the home of the Klan?
Headquarters during the 90s. At least.
Shame. Just shit on my York pride right there.
Pennsylvania.
I was all happy, and then you shit on it. Just a big turd right on my York pride.
Again, most Yorkies are great.
It's a
guys.
bunch of pot smoking hippies in York, is what I meant.
I love Pennsylvania, man. But
I don't, but it's cool.
so that the states' rights thing on its own didn't work. So you needed some kind of federal thing to oversee it, and like you don't want states voting for slavery, for example. Like there's certain
Right.
values that we
exactly. There's
Yeah.
a few. There are topics that no. This is going to be
or currency. Like back then,
Sure.
Virginia had its own currency. It was
everyone
a
had their
mess.
currency.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, can you imagine that if states voted for different things? And like you go to I don't want to even name a state, so like
Wisconsin.
South Clucky. We'll
Yeah.
make one up. You go to South Clucky and there's slavery there. Like you cross the border into what the fuck?
That's what the Civil War
Yeah.
was about. They wanted
Yeah.
the right to do that.
Ugh.
They wanted all the benefits of a unified nation, but they wanted slavery because as soon
Right.
as that went away, they were all
Yeah,
Well,
screwed.
fucking
That was
free
money.
labor, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
of course they did.
And you get to tap the help, and no one's there to stop you.
And
Yeah.
wasn't it like only 1% of Southerners owned
4.
slaves?
Yeah.
4%?
It is very
Rich people.
Yes, landowners.
And
yeah.
again, like
4%.
how many poor people died for your fucking enterprise?
Yeah.
Another simplistic view I have is that if pick a topic, let's just say anything happened in the military in the Middle East, you have people that no, I don't want that, and the government's like, well, we're going to do it anyway because we're not going to discuss things with you. Please. My point, I guess what I'm getting at is there's a topic like every quarter or something like that is an absolute general population vote. Like there's going to
Direct democracy.
Direct democracy. Now it couldn't be done for every damn thing. It just fall apart. But there's some there's some extremely major issues that are on. Let's call it abortion. Thank you, abortion or anything military. Anything like how about bailing out banks? Actually, that one's a little technical but the point is, if there's something like, do we put boots on the ground here or no?
You
yes
think
or
that
no?
should be up to the populace?
I think so. Again, going back to that simplistic view of the people by the people, and if everyone's like, "Hey, I really don't,"
I think to go to war, you should have a popular vote, a majority. They're the people who are going to fight the war. They're going to fight the war.
Yeah, but there's got to be a grace period between the false flag and the actual vote, because you 98% of Americans supported the Iraq War in 2001, 2002,
because they went right away.
Well,
people were mad. Because I got to tell you, at the time,
scared.
I hated George Bush, but when he came there and he said his little, "I hear you, America hears you, and the people that did this are going to hear you."
Yeah,
I was like glad he said that.
He soared into record approval ratings, 90s, the 90s.
I couldn't stand the guy, and when he said that, I'm like, that's what I wanted you to say.
Right.
Like the people who did this we're gonna bring the fucking hammer down on.
Yeah.
them.
Right, but the thing is, so if
then
the
we
news, if the media, would stick to the actual facts. If they after 9/11, they fucking stuck to the facts and they reported the facts and said,
bunch of Saudis.
Okay, a bunch of Saudi Arabians are the ones who fucking got on these planes, and by Osama bin Laden, who was in Afghanistan, although he's actually from Saudi Arabia too, from family there,
Trained
and blah blah,
by
and all this
us.
stuff, and this is what happened. Okay, America, what do you want to do? Instead of, okay, we are going to attack Iraq.
Yeah, Iraq, yes or no.
It's like, what?
Like, even if they gave you that vote.
No, not Iraq.
Yeah.
No,
the fuck are you talking about?
We're the most powerful country in the world. We have satellites everywhere. Let's just go after the fucking people who did it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, we don't even have to start a war. We can directly fucking target those
and the people who financed them.
And the people who financed them.
We can branch out.
Like, if we talk about wanting to be ruthless, why not target specifically all the fuckheads in charge of this rather than bring war to a whole country?
Oh, yeah.
Because think of how many I know that, like, my dad would hate to hear me say this, and probably my mom and a lot of people I know, but how many fucking Iraqi civilians are dead when we could have just went directly after the guys who did it?
Yep.
Somewhere between half a million and 1.5 million.
And I got to tell you, and this will make them happy again, because I don't believe all those Iraqis are worth the Americans that we lost over there. I don't believe they're worth it. I don't believe all of those Iraqis are worth losing one American over there.
I feel what you're saying, but I don't agree.
I don't agree with that
just,
at all.
And I know you guys don't, but I don't think I did
like
not want to go to war because I didn't want Iraqis to get killed, because in the end, the sociopath in me couldn't care fucking less about the Iraqis.
I know.
But I do care about American soldiers going over there and
I
dying.
don't understand that. Like, you don't care about the Iraqis, but you do care about some fucking douchebag businessman that was fucking working in the.
I don't care about a douchebag businessman. My dad was a soldier.
Your dad didn't die in 9/11.
No.
Neither did any other soldier.
What I'm saying is, in a war, soldiers fucking die. That's who dies. Soldiers get killed, right?
And civilians.
Right.
And more civilians die than soldiers.
But according to Bryan's view, neither one would die. He wouldn't want the troops to die or the civilians.
Like, no, I don't. What I'm saying is that whether I care or not about the Iraqis dying, it's immaterial to my whole point. I don't give a fuck about them. I do give a fuck about Americans dying. If we're going to send our soldiers, if we're going to send my father, my friend, my brother, me, if we're going to send that dude to war, I want it to be righteous. I want it to be a legit cause. I want it to be a legit cause. Yeah. I don't want my fucking dad to get killed over a fucking lie.
Right.
And I feel like those guys died for the wrong fucking reasons.
Yeah.
Right. I don't have any argument about that.
And I said the only saving grace, what if democracy catches hold over there and it actually works?
Yeah.
Like a couple hundred years from now.
Then we wouldn't like the guy they elect, so we'd install another guy.
Right. Yeah. But what if it worked? Then I think it would be worth it. If people were free and they had even though I think we're in a shitty spot right now as America, I still think we have opportunity here. And if those people end up with that same opportunity because of this, then to me it was worth it. But otherwise it wasn't, because it was based on a lie.
But we got to look at the stats as to how many regimes that we've overthrown have become stable democracies.
None, as far as I know.
I don't know. I think maybe I don't know. Yeah, but probably not any, or if there are a couple.
I mean, if they are, it's because we're fucking hovering over them, making sure it stays that way.
Well, it's best when we leave, when we don't get involved.
Well, they could just go back to what they were doing.
Yeah.
So would you take, if you're in charge, if John Berger's the guy in charge, is it more of an isolationist policy like when America was young? Where we just stayed the fuck out of everybody's business?
If I was the president and I had a lot of power, I would very gradually scale back our presence in our overseas military bases. You can't just shut it all down. You just have fucking chaos.
Well, I was going to say, do you think in
really
isolation it wouldn't even work anymore?
No.
You have to think globally.
It won't work at all. This is a whole new world.
So is there...
And a lot of people say it's our presence in these countries which that keeps down a lot of conflicts from happening. In other words, like a tyrannical government, like Saddam Hussein. We all acknowledge this to be true. When he was in power, that ethnic strife, and it was basically a secular government. It wasn't Islamist or anything. Saddam didn't give a shit. He was a tyrant, but he had an iron fist. And so a lot of these sectarian things, ancient rivalries, blood feuds, were kept down. Because if you killed someone for some religious reason, Saddam would chop your head off. He doesn't want people murdering each other in the streets unless it's by his sword.
Right.
So he kept down a lot of bullshit. We all acknowledge that to be true, because when you killed him, it went into just chaos. Everyone knows this to be true. And conservatives say, aren't you glad we got Saddam? Isn't that's what they all, Condoleezza Rice, isn't the world a better place since we got him? My answer is no, it's not better. I'm happy that he's dead. I'm happy you got rid of his sons, but it's not better. It's worse there than it was.
It's not better.
And the thing is, so that is true, and that was on Bush's watch, right? Or actually, no, it was on Barack Obama's that we got Saddam, but we got him out of power under Bush's. Yeah, it was Barack. It was during.
That's
Barack
when we got
Obama's.
Osama.
Yeah, you're thinking of Bin Laden.
Yeah,
right.
They got him during
Pretty
Bush's
quick.
term. He was within a couple months of the invasion.
But also on Barack Obama's watch, we got rid of Gaddafi.
Right.
Which that contributed to the same
Huge
fucking
failure.
shit that happened in Iraq.
Yep.
I had to go as a famous person in my second grade class, and I went as Gaddafi.
I can't believe
you
he
ever
was
read that
around
book?
back then. Like,
Have you ever read that book that he wrote?
I haven't.
It's basically all about
how great he is.
environmentalism and stuff.
What?
He was a huge environmentalist.
Oh my
and,
God.
And had a lot of the same stuff that Al Gore did.
Yeah.
Like he's also talking about how communism is the way that you should go and stuff like that. But it's a pretty interesting book.
So my
Well,
analogy
you know what's weird
was
about communism? The root word is community.
right.
Yeah.
It's
It's like socialism. Everyone's like, "Oh, Bernie Sanders is a socialist." Blah, blah, blah.
It's just
Like,
that communism.
Yeah, socialist. That's social. Like social media, Facebook.
Would you say the Native
Communism,
American
though,
culture
is
was
a
socialist?
statist socialist system. So it's a socialist system with an extremely powerful state with no voting. That's
Right.
part of the definition of communism. It's an appointed leader who has an iron fist. So that's why it's the ugly side of socialism.
and they're not affected by the laws that.
Yeah, there's no rule of law. The rule of law meaning every individual is subject to. So if Barack Obama goes and robs a bank, he has to, supposedly he has to get arrested and go to jail.
Even though, like the laws that they handed down, the Congress and all that, they're not subject to it either. Just like the health care and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty similar.
But my point was, the analogy was that Saddam kept things under some control, even though his sons were raping the nation. And the analogy is America as kind of the bully of the world with bases in 150 countries. There's a good argument that we're kind of holding down the natural chaos that erupts in human societies in a lot of those places. And I think there's some truth to that. So the radical liberals who just say, isolationists, get out of there. Not so much.
But no, there's probably some truth to that. But there's
Yeah.
also truth to the fact that empires do not exist forever.
Yeah.
So
But,
I don't care
where do you
what
go
you
with
want
that,
to talk
though?
about. Well, I'm just saying, America, you want to keep on this fucking road to empire and building empire. Guess what? Eventually, it's gonna fucking fail.
But no
and
kind
it's
of
gonna
society
go away.
goes forever.
And no society. But look at Switzerland. Look at other places where they're not doing the shit that we do. They're
It's a
existing in
smaller
modern days times, right?
I'm
And
making
they're
a list
okay.
of
but
reasons to move to Switzerland.
Yeah,
I
but
already
they-
have 3, and that's all
Well,
I
the
need.
flag is a big plus.
Women and beer.
Well, I like
Well, there's
chocolate
that-
too.
there's
My
that- I can't-
Chocolate cheese.
And we laughed at that. Took you a
Watches.
minute to get the other day.
Mountains, okay,
this,
4.
the Switzerland
Oh, yeah.
flag thing. It's
Yeah.
a big plus.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
like
it's a
took me
big
a minute.
plus.
We're like, John, really, man?
I
Like,
know.
don't admit that.
I know. It's like when I watch the M. Night movies, and I'm always like, he's a ghost.
I gotta tell you,
I'm
I'm
like,
like,
yay,
I-
ghost.
I figure a lot of these out like right before the twist, but I never give them away to the people I'm watching them with.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I'll tell you, the movie that most bummed me out that I didn't figure it out was fucking Fight Club.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because once they give you the twist in the end, I was like, it was so obvious. It was so,
That's
now,
what a good twist is.
Now when I
That's
watch
what a
it-
good twist is.
we watched the movie the other day, and I'm like, it's so fucking obvious that he's crazy and that it's him. It's so obvious. Like, how did I not figure that out? Because when they dropped that bomb, I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. Chuck Palahniuk's going to be at Fantasy Comics on October 18th, I'm pretty sure.
That's cool. They're making another movie, I think.
It's a comic book, Fight Club 2.
Yeah.
They're doing a Fight Club comic, so I don't know if they'll do a movie, but that would be...
So the thing with Trump is, there's this thing called, a phrase for the politically viable spectrum of debate. So the things that can be argued in a political race, and the phrase for this is the Overton window. It's the stuff that can be talked about. And what Trump is doing in this election, he's moving that window to where it's good for him. So in other words, a lot of candidates don't want to talk about such and such. Like Hillary cannot attack Jeb on the Iraq War.
Because she voted for it.
She voted for it. So that'll be silent. There'll be no discussion of that if those are the candidates. Lovely. Campaign finance, taking money from billionaires. Neither one will talk about that because they're both doing it.
Right.
It won't be mentioned. So Trump is moving the Overton window to where he wants it to be. The conservative issues that would be in play right now, if he wasn't a factor, would be like the Iran deal and the Planned Parenthood videos and stuff like that. That's what would be talked about right now. But he's so flip-flopped on abortion that he doesn't want to bring it up unless absolutely necessary. So he's not going to talk about Planned Parenthood. He used to say he was strongly pro-choice. That was a quote from like 8 years ago. I'm strongly pro-choice. Now he's pro-life. But he doesn't want to talk about that because it's obvious hypocrisy.
It doesn't work for him.
Right. So no one's talking about the videos in political debate anyway, even though they're still coming out and stuff. It was engineered to be a continual scandal. And the Iran deal, because he doesn't know anything about foreign policy, so he doesn't want to talk about that. So he's moving the window to the issues he wants to talk about, which are immigration and stuff like that. So when he makes those extreme comments about immigrants, he's now making that. Before him, no one was talking about deportation, mass deportation.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, there was.
No, it wasn't in the window of mainstream political debate of the Republican candidates. None of the Republican
building better walls.
Right. The most extreme Republican candidate might have said build a wall, but he wouldn't say.
It wasn't in Republican candidates,
right?
Because they weren't election years.
No.
But Republican politicians have been talking about mass deportations for a while.
It's always been a thing, yeah.
Right?
But
and I agree with you again. Like I said, that the candidates weren't talking about it because they weren't election years.
But now they have to. Now they have to because of Trump, because he's gotten so much support for making those comments. So he wants to deport 11 million undocumented immigrants,
well,
and also
first off,
children, anchor babies, who are children born in the USA from illegal immigrant parents who are, because of a constitutional amendment, are American citizens. In other words, the 16th Amendment or something was, if you're born here, you're American. So that's been the thing for a long time. And he was talking about getting rid of those kids, which is illegal.
Well, which would mean that both, I think, Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz would not be American citizens.
Right.
But
wait, their parents weren't illegal immigrants.
Marco Rubio was born in Canada
Cruz was born in Canada.
Was Cruz born in Canada? Okay, but his father was Cuban, not an American citizen. His mother was an American citizen, but he wasn't born in America. He was born in Canada.
Yeah, that's a slightly different thing, though.
Well, slightly different.
That's
but
a rule about who can become president.
Well,
yeah, that's a different.
Well,
but yeah.
Right. But if you want to go to that extreme, you might want to change. Even if one of your parents is an American citizen, if you're born on foreign soil, maybe you have to take a test or do the same kind of shit.
Right.
But the first thing that people have to acknowledge is Trump is a modern day P.T. Barnum. He is. That's what he is.
Greatest show on earth.
So I mean, you can believe him if you want, and what he comes out of his mouth. Or you can maybe take it with a grain of salt, or whatever.
What do you think he has a plan for if he actually wins?
No, I think his plan is to have people talking about him. He wants to be in the.
So you don't think he gives a shit about the election at all?
I think he wants to win. He wants to win.
Well, I think he would not have a problem winning, but I think really he wants Hillary to win. and it's all a plan to get Hillary elected.
Now, that's an extreme view, Mark.
It might be an extreme view, but I believe it.
You believe that he's intentionally running for the purpose of getting Hillary Clinton elected?
I think he's better friends with Hillary Clinton than any of the other candidates.
Well, he definitely is.
I think that he is running as a Republican and running on this extreme view and getting people to just flock to him because he knows that they will, and that's the base now of the Republican Party, the people that he's talking to. So they're going to flock to him. When he doesn't get a nomination,
they're going to be pissed, and they're not going to want to vote for Jeb.
Right, and I think he will run, as long as it's Hillary that's the Democratic candidates, he will run as a third party, draining off those votes.
No, he made his little pledge. It wasn't legally
No, he didn't
binding.
make his...
No, he didn't.
He
did.
No, he said that if that he wouldn't run as a third party if he liked the person that was going to run.
No.
Or yes, he did. That's what he said.
No,
he did
that's
not,
what he said. But then a week ago, he finally signed that little paper and showed it at a press conference.
Okay, yeah,
he did. It's not legally binding.
Mike Huckabee said that instead of sending Kim Davis to jail, that they should come lock him up. And yes, and we're now stuff that's on the internet and on TV. We're believing and taking at face value, and sure, and that's what's going to happen in reality.
Okay, you just didn't know about that, and I informed you.
No, I didn't know about that, and I still don't think that is a salient fucking point.
Well, it's
no. He signed what he had a lackey fucking go Xerox something that he then signed.
Yeah,
like okay.
I stated that it's not legally binding, but it's amazing when you do that.
John,
if you lie,
John, I don't know if it was Trump Tower or what building it was, but when he was building it in the 80s, first off, he bought it for I think it was $70 million. He said he bought it for $100 million. Media ran with that it was $100 million is what he paid for it. When he built it, he had it be, he said that it was 68 floors, 68 floor building. It was really 58 floors, but he didn't number, he skipped 10 of the numbers so that it would go up to 68. Drove fucking firefighters nuts.
Yeah.
Because these 10 floors just did not exist.
Oh my God.
Okay, so that's the kind of guy we're talking about.
You're right, you're right.
That
there's a chance that he would run.
He liked to call it truthful hyperbole.
So you must think that the only reason he did sign that paper was to mollify the Republican establishment and make it easier for him to actually win the Republican nomination. Because why else would he do that?
He'd do it to get him to shut up about it.
Right.
Say, look, okay, yeah, I signed this thing. I'm not going to run as a third party.
I think there's a guy who is completely against immigration, but is married to two immigrant wives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, come on, Jeff.
I'm noticing a little hypocrisy.
Jeff, you're conservative on immigration. Give us a dose of reality on how you feel about this. Are you for Trump has a pretty extreme plan. Mass deportation of 11 million people. It's going to cost $800 billion. And it's going to tear families apart and create chaos. I mean, no one was talking about it before you.
I think it's stupid.
You think it's stupid?
Yeah.
But, okay. Do you at least?
So, what's your thoughts on immigration, though? What do we do?
Like, there's this new law.
Actually, I have very simple thoughts on things. I think sometimes people get so fucked up and they twist things around. Here's the deal, and it actually was spawned in the deserts of Arizona just a few years ago, listening to some crazy liberal tell my dad not to pick up the trash that some of the Mexicans had left. And anyway, a different story. Point is, right now, no one's going to be happy with what we're doing. What I say is divert funds to make it easier to be. We want to deport illegal immigrants, right? Okay, so the fact that they're illegal because they just swam, crawled, scratched, jumped the fucking, came over and burrowed. I don't give a shit. But so if they were legal, we're cool, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, then why don't we divert funds legalizing people? Throw more money at the point where we're doing better screenings or more screenings or simplifying the process.
So you're for amnesty for
no. I haven't got there yet.
What do you mean legalizing them then?
What I'm saying is anybody coming across, we're catching people. It's like, no, make the system easier so no one has to go across the fucking desert in the first place.
So you mean make it easier to become a naturalized citizen?
No, I'm not saying loosen the laws. Right now, what are the main issues? There's not enough people. There's not enough processors to be able to process all these claims and everything. It takes time. It's the government. The wheels fucking spin slow.
Right.
So what I'm saying is open more channels, throw more employees at it, throw more agents or whatever they're called, because the issue, everyone's all pissed off that everyone's illegal. Well, if we legalized everybody, yeah, honestly, I'm this or that on it. What I'm saying is the fly's already in that ointment. Fix what we can. What we can fix the future now with that. What do I think about Trump just kicking everybody out? Shut the fuck up, douchebag. You've got half of them hired as you know.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
you can't do it. He would never do it.
But my point is if we make a system where it's easier for someone to come to America,
yeah,
or which then also allows the filter to be stronger, because you've got one guy dealing with I only have to go through 10 files today instead of 1,000 backlog. Then you get a better filter, and then we don't have, because everyone's, they're bringing rabies and drugs and they're violent criminals. Yeah, and you're right, there are some of this and there is some of that. I say throw more money at it, channel them off money that's,
So you're saying we fix it for the future, not like it's today. It's fuck it, we gotta let it go and just look at what's coming.
And
I think it's more important right now to fix it for the future, because then that's my feeling, because I don't.
Do you also want them to beef up security to prevent the illegals from flooding across?
Absolutely, because it goes hand in hand. If it's like, all right, look, it's like, you guys over there, just chill the fuck out. In 2 or 3 months, we're gonna have wider doors to walk through. So fucking relax.
But so then, what does that entail, though? More secure borders. It's a good question. Is a demilitarized zone.
Yeah.
That's what a more secure border than what we have now would be, right?
It's the wall,
can we agree on that? That's what it would be.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, so I'm driving from
wall?
down
How
there.
does that stop me? Like a couple ladders
Well,
get me over the wall.
Well, he's going to make
is,
Mexico pay for it, so don't worry about it.
Well, you build the wall, but then guess what? 30 kilometers north of the wall, you still have another checkpoint, which you do
just
north of San Diego. You do, north of Nogales. You do out in Douglas. You have the. So then, when does this wall stop? And so you're going to build a wall from what? From the coast of California to the Gulf of Mexico? Well, what about the rest of that shoreline on the two sides, Pacific and Atlantic, and the Gulf of Mexico? And what about the Canadian border? Because guess what? That's where the people that did 9/11 came from. Canada, not from Mexico.
And so, there's a historical thing. Whenever you beef up security here, the water goes through the other hole faster. It's just like, the hose or whatever. It happens every time.
I guess.
So okay, so we see Jeff, what he does. And I would call Jeff like a liberal conservative, because he's conservative compared to you.
Well, a moderate conservative.
Yeah, but he's not conservative compared to Bill O'Reilly.
Apparently not. I don't know if we're getting the truth out of him, but yeah, no.
I would say Jeff's probably just
to me, he's very reasonable. I mean,
but he's conservative on a few.
That's kind of where I want to live.
Yeah,
on reasonable.
On a few things, he's conservative.
Yeah,
but he's not the Ayn Rand, Coulter, following those psychos. So not an extreme.
Jeff,
but how does the liberal? So how do you solve the progressive uber liberal, which is how I see you? What do we do about immigration, man? Nothing.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, man. I have no recommendation. I don't think Obama's right. I mean, Obama's deported more people than any president in U.S. history.
Well,
let's start with that. That I know. Here's some other statistics. 1.6% of immigrant males, 19 to 39, are incarcerated, compared to 3.3% of native-born Americans. In other words, there's statistics pointing to less criminality in illegal immigrants than in native-born Americans.
Well, yeah, they're trying not to get deported.
Right, exactly.
For the most part.
Fly under the radar, try to get a job.
Or they were truly good people, but I didn't have my green card. But look at me, I work hard.
I don't. Here's the thing about immigration for me. I'm very confused
and
about what to do.
And do you want them locked up, which costs a lot of money, instead of working and paying taxes, at least sales taxes?
Or do you even want to round them up and then give them a one-way ticket back to wherever? That costs money too.
Yeah, especially
costs more money than just them being in this country
for the first
working.
time for the first time in history, more illegal immigrants came from Central America and South America than Mexico.
Yeah, but you're not sending them there. You're just sending them to Mexico.
Just go back to Mexico.
That's how it happens.
I know. They drop them off in Mexico. They're like, I'm from Guatemala. I don't know anything about Mexico.
Comically, what I would say is if we catch you, you get to work on the chain gang to help build the wall that we're trying to keep you out with, and then when we reach your section, you just step on that side and we just build it past you.
Well, let me defend the conservatives then, because like Bill O'Reilly is pushing this thing called Kate's Law. So this young lady, Kate Steinle,
they got murdered.
Was like horribly murdered by this illegal immigrant, and he had been deported 5 times.
Are we going to talk about sanctuary cities?
Yes.
I hate those.
So
those I hate.
Good point. So there's these things called so cities. Some cities in the U.S. are liberal cities, and they defy federal law, or they make it illegal for police to ask about your immigration status. So in that way, they
that's
defy.
what defines a sanctuary city.
Yeah,
Okay.
You won't be asked by a police officer if you're a citizen. So conservatives see this as, well, you're just abetting criminals. That's the only thing you're doing with that policy. So we got to get rid of sanctuary cities, and we need to impose Kate's Law, which is if you are caught as an illegal immigrant committing a crime or having come across after being deported already, you'll be put mandatory 5 years in prison, and a fine will be levied against you. So that's Kate's Law. So I'm against that because
Why are you against that?
Because of imprisonment. I think that sentence is too long, and I think it's extremely expensive for
agree.
us. And I don't want to throw anyone else in jail. Well, not anyone else, but I don't want to increase imprisonment.
Based on
country.
immigration, where someone just got caught doing something. Oh, look, I shoplifted a loaf of bread, and I'm an illegal immigrant, and now I'm going to be
5 years.
5 years.
In a
It's
cage.
what is it? $80,000 per person per year,
Right.
or whatever it is.
Now,
So
I get it, though. I get the sentiment. Like, they're breaking the law. We told them, don't come here. You're not allowed to come here in the way you're doing it. You got to pay. But so I don't know. Maybe a year in prison.
But
I don't know.
there's an easy solution. There's an easy solution to all
instant deportation. If you get
But
rounded
this
up,
guy was deported 5 times.
I know, but
so that didn't work.
right? It didn't work. So
what you do is you give him a prison sentence in a for-profit prison. It's not costing the government anything, not costing the taxpayer anything.
No, that does cost
the for-profit prison.
They still get federal.
paid
No, I
for
know.
by
the-
Well, you get rid of those.
Okay.
First
Well,
off,
but what I'm-
you get rid of all governments. In my America, government subsidies don't exist. So you put them in a for-profit prison.
paid for by whom?
Or the for-profit prison is
The
going to be
company.
paying for itself.
Yeah.
There's no government subsidies. The
so
whatever
they're gonna
business
make stuff?
they can make stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how
Make
they might
stuff,
run that prison.
road
That's
crews.
Who knows?
but that's
Could
the
be
scandal of
agriculture.
slavery. That's
Yeah.
the
But
they're gonna-
scandal.
I was like-
Well,
These
I'm
prisons
sorry.
are basically
You
plantations.
got arrested on foreign soil committing a crime, or
Try that
you've
shit
been
in
here more
Pakistan
than-
or
yeah.
Afghanistan.
You've
It's a
been
little
here more
worse,
than-
bro. You don't want to go to Turkish prison.
Yeah, American prison is not that great.
Pretty
but
fucking
it's not
nice.
as bad as some of those. It's
Yeah.
not pretty fucking nice.
Compared to a Turkish prison, I think it's pretty nice.
But not compared to any European prison. Canada, some other, even some poorer countries have better conditions than we do.
You ever seen a
not
Brazilian
all of
prison?
us.
Yeah, no, it's
Not
Jesus
all of
Christ.
us are an international career criminal such as yourself, John. So we haven't been into all these prisons
That's right.
across all the countries.
I've been around, man. I've been locked up abroad many times.
Yep,
That
that's
whole
right.
show is about me.
Accosted in Scotland, peed on in India.
Yeah.
Like, there's shit going on
I've
in burger world.
I'm wanted by the whole EU.
No, but the bus story in Scotland, man, like that has to be on here one time.
But I
dude.
mean, with immigration, you just look at what the actual problems are, and they're like that, where if someone comes into this country and is doing criminal activity, or what someone's coming over here and corporations or businesses are using their cheap labor and not having to employ Americans at a higher wage. So then there's that problem. You try to fix the actual problems and not the people.
So are
it's
you
just
a-
the same thing
so
with
you agree
same
with
thing
Kate's
with
law?
marijuana. Yes, I agree with Kate's law. And like I said, I think they should be thrown in a for-profit prison, which has no government subsidies. Or they can maybe like join the military, get sent over and fucking fight Afghanistan.
You can't put criminals in the military.
I think you should.
No, you're
I
wrong.
think criminals should be armed and sent
You know,
sent
they-
to fucking
they-
foreign places
with
to
with
kill.
clown shoes.
You
Yeah,
do
with
remember
clown
that
shoes.
they used to be, though. Guys
Yeah.
got choices back around the World
Yeah,
War II times.
Papillon.
Like, you can fucking go to jail, or you can join the
No,
army.
that's true.
And I think for a lot of those dudes, it was a good option.
Yeah, that's true. kind of scared straight type of deal.
Well, or maybe they find a calling.
Here's your chance to do,
or even
good.
just like
Yeah.
that book,
You can
Follow the
that
drill
you read.
sergeant, or you're going in the brig. So I
that
don't
book
care
that
if
you
you're-
read, Fear. Or what are
Oh
you talking
yeah,
about?
where you can't, like they said, you can't make soldiers into terrorists because they, like, you can't make them into a force that would terrorize the enemy because soldiers inherently have an honor and a moral code that's ingrained in them. But you could take killers and make them soldiers. That was the concept of the book. So
Oh.
it was called it was a red ops team instead of a black ops team. They came in to destabilize a region, to fucking torture, to imprison, to disrupt, to destabilize, to murder, to fucking rape, to pillage, to just bring terror to an area. And they did an experiment where they tried to do it with soldiers, but they said, these guys, for the most part, have a moral code that prevents them from getting this deep into the fucking savagery of it. So
Isn't one of the
we
general orders is you get to disobey
Well,
an unlawful order?
Well, yeah, you can disobey an unlawful order, but I mean, in the book, though, what they're saying is that they don't work for this type of thing, and this type of thing works in war. So what we can do is take these psychopathic killers and give them the skills that soldiers have, and send them in as red ops teams.
Right.
That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have that book if you want to read it. It's fucking horrible.
Okay, all right.
Or even Dirty Dozen. Come on.
Dirty
The
Dozen.
Dirty Dozen, yeah, man.
I get the Kate's Law thing, man. I really do. It's scandalous to me that
But what-
illegal
so-
immigrants
so-
are not dealt with. I mean, I think they're dealt with
I
pretty
don't
harshly.
think.
but
I really don't think it should be illegal immigrants. If you're here illegally, if you've swam, jumped a fence, like
Made it
whatever,
here.
guess what? I think you want to be in this damn country more than a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And maybe you belong in this country more than someone that was just born here, happened to be born here,
What I
because
would-
their parents were too lazy to go anywhere.
Yeah,
ever.
seriously.
Maybe
Yeah.
they were born in the same
we're
town
all-
that you
we're
were
all-
born, and their grandparents were
we
born
were
in the same.
we were born here. We're all
Yeah.
crying about how much it sucks. and
So I don't have I'm not really into that. But if you've committed a crime, if you've killed people, if you've robbed people, if you've done these things that we don't want our American citizens doing, then no, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. I get you, but, like, what are we saying? Like, so an illegal immigrant comes here, he gets caught shoplifting, he immediately does 5 years?
Yeah, that's the law.
Yee, see, that to me, that's a little rough.
Well,
Because
no,
the guy came here and tried to-
I just don't believe
I don't
in
know what
imprisonment
Kate's
there.
law says, but you come to this country illegally, you get arrested shoplifting, you get deported. If you come back to this country, commit another crime, you do fucking 5 years at least.
So that's what the law says.
That's what I'm
Well,
saying. I don't know what
okay.
the law says.
It will end sanctuary cities, and it fines and imprisons returning immigrants, actually. So it's actually anyone who's been kicked out and then comes back. That's enough for the 5 years. And then also if you got deported, came back, and committed a crime, well, obviously
let me
the
ask
same
you
thing
this,
would
though.
apply.
So you leave, you come here, you're trying to find a better life. What bothers me about this situation is I agree that illegal immigration is a problem, but I'm not angry at the people that are trying to get here.
I'm angry at the people that are forcing people.
But
to
do you
come.
find that the people who are against this seem angry at the people
Yes.
who are trying
Threatened.
to come here?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
they're angry.
How many guys do we know? A good buddy of yours, pretty liberal
Well,
guy,
'cause it's
atheist
a-
guy, hates
Because it's a
illegal
false
immigrants.
flag. It's a false flag, just like anything else.
It's a group,
which
yeah.
they divert the public's attention away from what are your problems in everyday life. Who contributes to that? Like, oh, well, see, these illegals that are coming to the
Scapegoat.
country, they're making your life terrible.
Create
They're the
boogeyman.
reason that you can't get this job. Or
Because I get some of the conservative arguments, and and maybe this will be unpopular, but the one I get the most is that, like, I have my family are immigrants. If you go back, they came over.
everybody's family
Right,
is.
I get
Except
that,
the Indians.
except them. Yeah.
Even they
What's funny
came
is what I
across
thought,
the bank
like when you talk
from
about
somewhere.
karma for
They're
9
straight.
when people are talking about karma for 9/11, just backtracking a bit, I wonder what the Lakota Sioux feel about karma for 9/11.
Right.
Was that our karma for
Right.
fucking ruining your civilization? Like,
Well, all the Muslims dancing in the street thought it was karma for our occupation of their countries and military
sure.
control and all the other things we had done there before
I
9/11.
bet they fucking do. So karma's really kind of subjective, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's
Yeah.
all about what you think
also,
is... All right.
Also, karma's not that.
So-
Karma's not
One
something
for
that
one.
happens, a consequence for your actions.
Yeah.
That's not what karma is.
No.
Karma's like the universe balancing itself.
It's this
right?
complex impersonal force that
like the universe balancing itself, like yin yang. Everything balances.
It's not like
out.
if you step on a bug will step on you.
Right?
Later.
I'm not going to get murdered by ants. It's not.
So
no, I get that, but I talked this about my mom. I said, if you and Dad were Mexican nationals or from Guatemala, and you had Kevin and I, and you had no fucking opportunities, and you knew you could come to America and maybe get those opportunities and make a better life for us.
Yeah, you knew some friends who had already come here.
I 100% believe that you and Dad would pick us up and take us there to try to make a better life for your children. So I'm not fucking mad at these people for coming here.
The refugee crisis in Europe right now, there's a great quote. It's like if someone put his kid on a boat, on a raft to go somewhere else, I'm going to screw it up, but it's because things were worse. Things were so bad where they were that they put their kid on a raft. Like, it shows you already the desperation of what's going on. So no one throws their kid on a raft to go across the ocean unless they think the kid's going to die where they are. If your kid's living naked in an alley in your home in El Salvador or something, and there's diseases and gangs everywhere, what would your parents say to that if that was them with you guys wallowing in the heroin needles?
Yeah.
Would you just we would stay there and work to make Guatemala a better place?
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
too.
Americans might throw their kids on a raft to go across the ocean if it's a Disney attraction.
But I also see the other side. Like, I don't want all these MS-13 motherfuckers coming up here from El Salvador either. But you're pretty obvious. You're tattooed all over your face. We should be turning you the fuck around.
And that statistic I gave you shows just how false that image of them is. You saw Chris Crowley posting, this is what's coming across. When the kids were coming from Central America a couple of years ago, like 30,000 children came across, and he was like, this is what's really coming across. And they just show stock photos of MS-13 gang guys throwing symbols. That's who's really it is. You saw them there. Like, a couple of those guys are coming through.
Well, no.
Have you seen
Mika
any
doesn't
videos?
Look like MS-13
Because I'm looking at videos. I'm seeing a lot of videos on different sites of these refugees not behaving so well.
Did you see the reporter that tripped the old man holding the baby?
Right. And I also read a story that said that dude was actively fleeing from police when she tripped him.
He's still holding a little baby,
right.
and her job as a stupid camera woman who hates immigrants who kicked another person. That wasn't the only one. She's been fired, by the way.
But I don't think you can lay that on everybody.
No.
But have you seen the other videos? Like people bringing them water and them fucking throwing it back, and so
I've seen a lot of hospitality by both sides in Germany.
I've seen a lot of hospitality
Austria.
too, but I also see guys like with big bags of stuff, like going to give them, and then they're getting mobbed, and all their shit's getting stolen by other guys, and
they're hungry.
You're not, but you're not. You don't see any of that. Both sides of it aren't being played out in the media. Again, it's very one-sided in the coverage. Like, oh, these poor people. Do you think all of those people coming over are good guys?
No, but Brian, if the proportion is 5 bad guys to 95 good guys, then the news coverage should be skewed in favor of the good guys.
What I think though, what I think though is like, good luck, Europe. Welcome to our shoes.
Oh,
when you sit on your fucking high horse and criticize Americans about how we deal with immigration and refugees from other countries that are shitty, and you tell us how we should have done and what we should have done and how fucked up we are as Americans, reap it, motherfuckers.
No,
good luck.
They are though. Germany is totally walking the walk. Merkel said we're going to take 100,000 of them in each year. You know what Obama said and got panned for saying?
10,000.
We'll take 10,000 next year. Maybe, if this is still going on.
Well, and
we're a much bigger country.
Honestly, why is it our fucking responsibility, though?
It's not.
It's just playing devil's advocate. Why is it our responsibility? Is it just a human thing?
Well, if a guy crawls up to your door and he needs water and he begs you, is he your responsibility? No, not technically or philosophically. Morally, I don't know. I guess it's up to you. I'm not going to tell someone, yes, he's your responsibility. If you don't want to open that door... And I will say we're one of the top 5 suppliers in arms to this war-torn fucking place. Well, number 1 in the world for arms.
But I mean, we're not the top. We're not number 1 for supplying Syria. Russia is.
I'm not claiming that.
But I mean, we're in the top 5 though
for
supplying this war-torn region.
So that's one. But even if we weren't, I'm saying if a guy crawls up to your door, you didn't do anything to that guy.
No, well,
Is
and
he
you
your
know me to be a dude who will help a person who's fucking.
So I'm not going to make a moral proclamation that you always have to help people who ask for your
Well,
help.
how-
I don't always. I don't give money to every homeless guy.
Well, but how many Syrians are going to Iran? How many Syrians are going to Saudi Arabia?
Well, I don't think they're
How many
taking any.
Syrians are going, no, they're not. They're not. Jordan takes some. Turkey. I don't know.
Well, I saw a
Maybe
statistic
Yemen,
about
Jordan, Yemen.
the top 5 countries that are supplying arms and military aid to these countries that are at war are pretty much the top 5 of them are taking no one.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right, we got stuff to do. Real quick, Brian's going to end the show with interesting story.
About the Lone Ranger?
The Lone Ranger. So this guy's been popularized in the media for 100 years.
The Lone Ranger radio show started in 1933 in Detroit, which is where most of the fugitives, of which there were 3,000 that this guy apprehended. 3,000 fugitives.
So this was a heroic white lawman who was in the West, and
that's the story.
That's the story. And he
Silver
arrested
bullets,
bad guys. That's
Silver
what he was
bullets. He
famous
tracked down fugitives. He's kind of a bounty hunter. He's a U.S. deputy
Okay.
marshal.
Right.
He lived in the Indian Territories, Arkansas and Oklahoma, right after the Civil War. Weird
Okay.
twist, though. The Lone Ranger, not a fucking white guy. African American. His name was Bass Reeves. But in 1933, when they started his radio show, they certainly weren't going to glorify a black guy who gained his freedom by fucking beating to death his slave owner during the Civil War.
Really?
His owner decided to go off and fight the Civil War, took him with him as an assistant, lost in a game of cards to the guy. The guy's name is Bass Reeves, and he's the actual Lone Ranger. And his story is very close to the legend and the TV show, but they just lied about a lot of fucking particulars. Mainly the fact that he was black.
Right.
All the rest of it is oddly similar.
He
lost
an Indian accomplice.
Yeah, he beat his slave owner in a game of cards for which he was viciously attacked. The owner attacked him. He beat him to death. He knew that he couldn't stay there, so he used the chaos of the Civil War to escape west to the Indian Territory. And he lived amongst the Creek and the Seminole. Somehow he became the first African-American U.S. deputy marshal. And he worked those western hard. That was a hard time out west, man. That was a really hard time out west. So he worked this area. He's the first ever African American U.S. deputy marshal. When he was out apprehending fugitives, he did travel with a Native American guy who was a tracker and apparently very good at it because they caught over 3,000 of these dudes.
And he called them a racial slur.
I don't know about that, but the dude did. He rode a white horse.
That was fine back then.
And in the end, he rode a really light gray horse sometimes. He was a master of disguise. Like, he would disguise himself as outlaws,
a white guy.
as different people. He would
As a
disguise his
slave.
gait, his mannerisms, all these
Yeah.
things to get closer to people and identify them. And he didn't use
He
silver...
disguised his gayness. Is that what you said?
Gate.
Oh.
He didn't.
Mass
He didn't use silver
Mass
bullets like the legend said, but he collected and handed out silver coins where he went apprehending fugitives, so that it would be kind of a positive. He did it to kind of establish his brand.
Yeah.
But it would make it a positive experience. You help this guy out. You got an outlaw off your streets. You got a silver coin out of the deal. Like, it was a positive visit. When he came back, you wanted to help him.
Was it handcrafted?
I honestly, this article
farming.
didn't say. Is this
be
beef cereal derailing? Is this what he's doing?
Yeah. He's taking your words literally so that he can argue.
I'm just
different points.
adding color commentary.
Color commentary.
That's all.
So he
Thank
was
you, Joe
also
Rogan.
he also was a crack shot. There was
Nice.
kind of an unofficial ban. They had a lot of shooting competitions back
Yeah.
then. There was an unofficial ban on him being in them, and he eventually apprehended over 3,000 bad guys. Most of them went to that federal
Probably
prison
a few good guys
in
too.
Detroit, and that radio show started the Adventures of the Lone Ranger in 1933 there. And there's a couple books that were written about him. I'll post this story to the Radical Agnostic page,
cool.
maybe, or at least a link to it. Real American history, man. Like, the real story is almost always better than the one that's made up. And I don't know. Like, I think they should redo the Lone Ranger movie and make it fucking real. Jamie Foxx is ready to go, man.
Yeah.
This could be the best
Well,
Western
didn't
of
it
all
suck
time.
already anyway? The Johnny Depp? Wasn't
yeah,
that-
he
did-
was Tonto. Like, you couldn't find a Native American.
I
actor.
know, man.
Really? You
Like, that's
couldn't?
cool these days. Like,
You-
just
you-
dress him up in feathers and, like...
You couldn't
it's
find-
silly.
Johnny Depp's 116 Cherokee.
Oh, well, then we're good.
You have this on good authority.
Stop.
I think he said
it.
that. I think it's on his
right.
Wikipedia page.
We're gonna save the intervention for next week, but this is just
Well, there's evidence of it here.
Yeah,
We have
exactly.
live recorded evidence of serial derailing.
and we'll talk about the new hominin species. Hominids are just any little monkey-like little animals.
So a
from way
hominin
back.
is one that's a little more advanced.
It's upright walking human-ish.
Hominin.
I like hummus.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Jeff. I hope you'll be back soon.
Keep axing. I'll keep sitting.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and get involved and comment on the page and share it, please, as always.
Fuck it all, burn it down.
Yeah,
Fuck it all. Burn it down.
we're going to keep addressing that impulse in America that I think
Tater
is
tots.
tragic. But all right, guys, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks, John.
You got it.